Recording in progress.
Could we begin housekeeping comments, please?
Thank you for participating in today's meeting. Please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room, and please silence all devices. Click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you are in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby. For meetings in other locations, please complete a blue speaker card and provide it to a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items, and times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-3247. That's 909-396-3247. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you are authorizing recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
Gracias por participar en la reunión de hoy. Si asiste en persona, favor de no conectarse a la conferencia telefónica o Zoom mientras esté en el auditorio y silencie todos sus dispositivos. Haga clic en el icono de globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla para seleccionar inglés o español. Se recibirán comentarios públicos después de cada punto de la agenda. Si está en el auditorio y desea comentar, utilice los iPads ubicados en el vestíbulo. Para reuniones en otros sitios, complete una tarjeta azul para su comentario y entréguela a un empleado de South Coast AQMD. Los comentarios serán limitados a un total de 3 minutos o menos para cada punto de la agenda. El tiempo límite puede ser reducido para asegurar que se puedan escuchar todos los comentarios. Se mostrará un temporizador de cuenta regresiva en la pantalla para cada comentario público. Se asignará más tiempo para traducción al español no simultáneo. Si tiene preguntas o problemas sobre cómo hacer un comentario público, llame al asesor público al 909-396-3247. Eso es 909-396-3247. Respete el tiempo límite y favor de tratar a los demás con cortesía, civilidad y respeto. De lo contrario, es posible que se silencie el micrófono o que sea retirado de la reunión. Tenga en cuenta que esta reunión está siendo grabada. Al participar, usted autoriza la grabación del contenido audiovisual presentado durante el evento en vivo y acepta el uso posterior de la grabación en el dominio público por parte de South Coast AQMD.
Well, good morning, everyone. I want to welcome all of you to the November 1st, 2024 South Coast Air Quality Management District Governing Board meeting. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance by Governing Board Member Veronica Padillo Campos. Veronica,
Thank
please.
you. Let's rise. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. Next, roll call, Faye. Roll call, please.
Good morning, Mayor Locke Dawson. Here. Supervisor Hagman. Board Member Krakoff.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McCallum.
Here.
Supervisor Mitchell.
Present.
Board Member Padilla Campos.
Morning.
Here. Supervisor Perez.
Here.
Councilmember Rahman is absent. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Mayor Salache.
Present.
Supervisor Wagner. Vice Chair Cacchiotti.
Here.
And Chair Delgado is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Faye. Next item on our agenda is the swearing in of newly appointed board member from the beautiful County of Orange, Donald P. Wagner. Don, would you come up, please, and bring your oath of office papers? Welcome.
Thank you.
Are these on? No, not too loud. Hello, testing.
Be loud. Oh, there you go.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll repeat it and you follow with me. I state your name.
I, Don Wagner,
During such times as I hold the above office,
during such times as I hold the above office,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this oath freely
that I take this oath freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations,
you.
Supervisor. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Next item on our agenda is the recognition, really well-deserved recognition of 16 years of service to the South Coast AQMD Deputy Executive Officer, Legislative, Public Affairs and Media, Derek Alatorre. I've got a couple of comments, and then after I read them, if anybody else wants to weigh in, I'd be happy to entertain that. Derek is dedicated his... Derek, are you here? Did you retire early? Where does Derek go? Come on up, Derek. You can sit in the chief seat here, Derek. Or stand, whatever you prefer. Derek, I'll start off. Derek has dedicated his entire career to public service, especially on behalf of the South Coast AQMD. He started here almost exactly the time I did in 2008. You were in July, just a few months earlier. Senior Public Affairs Specialist in Legislative, Public Affairs and Media. His geographic area included the City of LA and gateway cities. 2012, Derek was promoted Assistant Deputy Executive Officer and a short 4 years later appointed Deputy Executive Officer, where he continued his leadership, strategic policy expertise. Derek was instrumental in passage of many bills. Just highlight a couple. AB 1274 O'Donnell created smog abatement fees that doubled Carl Moyer program funding statewide, garnered $25 to $30 million per year for South Coast AQMD. Recently, the successful reauthorization of Carl Moyer, AB 923 programs, provide incentive funding for cleaner vehicles equipped to air districts throughout the state of California. One is close to all board members' hearts. This is a tough one, AB 2522 Carrillo, which modernized compensation limits and authorized CPI-based increases for all local air district board members, which will lower barriers to participation from underrepresented communities, ensuring our air quality boards mirror the diversity of our region. Derek, on behalf of myself and the entire governing board here today, I commend you for your years of service, public service, especially with you the last 16 years here at the AQMD. I remember when we first met, I'd met you back in the 91 on a Senator Alatorre's campaign. We're both working as volunteers. I want to thank you for all you've done, and I want to open it up right now for my colleagues if they have any comments.
You want to jump in?
Supervisor Perez.
All right, I'll jump in very quickly. 91, what were you all doing in 1991?
I was a mocoso, so.
So was I. I was actually, I think, a freshman at UC Riverside. And even back then, we were obviously involved and engaged with Chicano student programs and ultimately trying to make sure that ethnic studies survived and that we brought in more representation that looked like us at the university level, and along the way would meet individuals that were activists and that were policymakers. And so with that said, Derek, you were here, I guess, or starting to work here, and obviously you had your roots with your father, which are amazing. You know, not too many folks can say that. Obviously, his base or his foundation, if you will, his principles were bestowed upon you and your brother, the entire family. I'm sure your primos and your primas and everybody else as well. And not only your family, but as well your community and folks that you probably don't even know today. Individuals like myself and others like my son, for that matter, who I spoke to about your father and about, now I'm going to talk about you, to him about how to see you as an example, a leader, an individual that created another path, right? Outside your father, now you're doing the same, hopefully. Now that you're moving on, this can open up for another individual, folks of color, a person of color that can take on your role and do exactly what you did. You know, it was a pleasure knowing you, Derek, and I'm going to miss you. And the times that we've gotten to know each other, we've grown. I've learned more about you every time we have conversations, and I appreciate that. I do have something here, but it's actually, I wanted to present this to you because it's for your father as well. And I know your father meant a lot to all of us here. And this is a proclamation indicating, just very quickly, a resolution that, I got to take off my glasses for this, that on Tuesday, October 1st, 2024, we adjourned in memory of your father and the state chair pioneering Chicano activist who passed away on August 13th, 2024 at the age of 81, surrounded by loved ones. And it goes on to say about all the great things he did. And so I assume that maybe you probably played at the YMCA at one time or another, that he was able to build in East LA. That's pretty impressive, as well as maybe even participated in the Feliz Navidad programs, right?
I had a volunteer.
You had a volunteer. So with that, Derek, you're going to be missed. Don't go too far. You might end up in Colombia, or I don't know where you're going to be, but if that's the case, make sure you take us with you.
Next year when you go down to Brazil, hopefully you visit me in Colombia.
Pues muchas gracias, compañero.
Thank you very much.
Adelante siempre. Ánimo.
Gracias, muchas gracias.
Any other board members?
Just Very briefly.
Mayor
I think-
Salachi.
I think Manny already, some of our comments as board members, so thank you, Manny. But I want to make an observation. I haven't seen someone honored and recognized being sitting at the chair's seat. So that's a first for me to see that. So I'll let the chair know that that was a nice replacement for the day. So thank you, Terry. Thank you, and good luck on your retirement.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Board members, any more comments? Then we'll present Derek with a resolution, also from the South Coast AQMD. Derek, for your dedicated service. Thank you so much. And we've got the beautiful glass.
It's not the bird. I was waiting for the bird.
No bird, but to Derek Alatorre, 2008,
Wow.
2024, 16 years of service. Your commitment to progress and advocacy created a legacy of excellence. Derek, congratulations. Let's get a picture.
Thank you.
Does the whole board want to stand up? and
Yeah, that'd be
picture with
nice.
Derek? Derek, why don't you hold this?
Yes, thank you.
Do we all fit?
Hold up.
That one.
Look at it, he's showing ours.
Chair, get in the way. I can move.
All right.
You want to say a few words? You want to say a few words?
Yeah, please. We can't hold him back. Derek wants to say a few words.
And few words is relative, right?
You want to sit? Oh, guess he wants to sit.
Yeah. I feel more comfortable. He likes the chair.
Would you like some coffee or anything?
I got the water right here. First of all, I want to thank everyone, my fellow exec staff members. Had a great run here. It was enjoyable. Also want to thank God. My parents, my daughters. I do want to thank a few other folks. I'm okay now. I have to get past my parents and daughters. Once I get past my parents and daughters, I'm fine. But I want to first thank Dr. Burke, because Dr. Burke gave me the opportunity. He saw something in me that I didn't see for myself. And he was able to nurture me, also give me opportunities, and very thankful for that. Also want to thank Wayne. Wayne promoted me to DEO, and I really appreciate that. And also to Barry Wallerstein. Barry was our former EO here, and he promoted me to the ADO position. And I'm very thankful for that, because it set me on my path. And those folks right there really helped me, and really my family, my daughters. I was able to provide for them an education and take them places that I probably wouldn't have been able to do had I not been promoted. And I really appreciate that. And then also to the two chairs after Dr. Burke, both to, what is he, County Assessor? Benoit, Ben Benoit, and then also to the current chair, Vanessa Delgado. Thank you very much for your leadership and where you've taken AQMD. We really appreciate that. As was mentioned earlier, I've had a couple positions here at the district, and very grateful for that. For those of you who've tried to get in and haven't been able to get in, know that it took me 3 times to get in. You don't give up. It's always important to keep on going. I tried for, I think it was 6 years before I finally got in. So always remember that and never give up. To my wonderful staff, I really appreciate all of you and all the hard work you gave every day to not only to the division, but also to the agency and the people that we serve. Some of my proudest moments were, I want to say, promoting and hiring folks here at the district. Giving people opportunities. That's something that my dad taught me, that I got that bug, if you want to call it, or whatever you want to call it, of wanting to give people opportunities. And I gave people opportunities. The ones that do you mind if I have this water?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Derek, this is under 10-minute
Okay,
Under 10 minutes?
under 10 minutes, no problem. But one of the proudest moments was when I promoted admin assistants. And I probably, I want to say 6 or 7 admin assistants that were on a track of being an admin assistant, but I got them out of that. And I got them in a different career path and promoted them. And those were really important. At a micro level, one of the goals of being a leader in a department is not only giving opportunities and promotions, but also allow staff to grow professionally and give them that freedom to be innovative, to do their job. And that's what I allowed my staff. I'm not a micromanager, never was, never will be. I just let them do their job. And if they needed some help, I would help them. And it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's okay to make mistakes, but as long as you grow from that. I want to call up 3 people that, besides the people I mentioned up above, and I call them my boss, right, like this, right? But it was my first admin assistant, Jeanette Short. Jeanette Short took me in like I was a newbie, only at the district here for 3 years, 4 years, and I didn't know, went from staff to executive level, and she really showed me the way and threw me a life raft when I needed it when I was in the deep end, but she really helped me out. Second one is Aisha Reyes. She was my second admin, and I was able to mold her the way I wanted my admin assistant to be, and she really kept me on task and was, I was successful not only because of my staff, but also because of Aisha. And then lastly, my current admin assistant, Maria Corralejo, and she's only been my admin assistant for a very little while, but she definitely has also made an impact on me. And, you learn everything from your staff members. And I've learned a lot from them. I learned a lot from my 3 admin assistants, and I'm truly grateful for them for keeping me on task and helping me out in my job, because I wouldn't be successful, not just from staff, but also from my admin assistants. They're really important. So with that, I want to thank everybody. I'm not dead. I'm not out to pasture. I will, who said that? I will be back.
Arnold.
Arnold said that. I'll be back, maybe not here, but I'll be out, and you'll see me out and about out there doing my own thing. So I appreciate it. I will be in Colombia sometime later on this year, and hopefully see some of you down there. It's a wonderful country. Thank you very much.
Next item on our agenda are opening comments by board members, as we're waiting for board members to let me know they want to speak. The first item after the board member comments, Wayne will speak, and then if you want to provide public comment, please raise your hand now. Online, if you're listening online, or if you're here, sign up so we can see who wants to speak during public comment. So board members, any comments today? See any on my right? None on my left. I just have a few quick pictures, and I'll ask Wayne to follow up with my comments. We had a great environmental justice conference recently. Ms. Padilla Campos was a panel leader there, and it was held at USC. And we have some pictures. So this is, I'm on the way. I took it was great. When we have these conferences, it's right near mass transit. So this is my second train. I took the Gold Line from South Pasadena to Little Tokyo Station. I'm off at Little Tokyo Station. There comes the train going out to Santa Monica next. Go Metro, there it is, Supervisor Mitchell. And there's the tunnel you can see going out, going west. Will ultimately take me to out to USC next. And then I'm on a train on the E-line. Expo line used to be E-line now that was the Jefferson Station, next station, Expo line next. And I get off the Expo line and honest to God, I walk across the street. Supervisor Mitchell will tell you, go left, you're at all the museums, and go right 300 yards, I was at our event. It was wonderful. So great job, great event, Wayne. Staff did a wonderful job. And if you maybe can follow up on that. Thank you very much. Oh, and this was, I got Board Member Padilla Campos. Look at that picture. That's one of the panels she moderated. And there's Dave Diaz talking from Active SGV. That's my comments. And Wayne, would you like to follow up?
I don't think there's any follow-up to the EJ conference. It really was a wonderful event, and we had great participation from so many different parties. Everybody is looking forward to the next one. The only thing that I wanted to comment about today, Chair, is that on October 28th, there was an announcement by US EPA, and that announcement was the award of $411 million that would go to the City of Los Angeles Harbor Departments, focusing on ports, on infrastructure, and clean equipment. And when you think about this past year, one of the things that I've said earlier is that you all recall we received a $500 million grant from EPA, the largest single grant ever awarded by the agency on the climate pollution reduction grant, $500 million. Combine that with $411 million for the City of Los Angeles and the ports. Combine that with I want to say over almost $300 million that the Port of Long Beach has achieved. It's unprecedented, over $1 billion to tackle one of the major environmental challenges of our time. And just wanted to sort of raise that awareness because you all challenged us to work on the funding, work on the political aspects. And I think this year has been a year to remember, and just wanted to highlight that fact as we move forward. The final thing that I wanted to say, Chair, is that as you just mentioned, we know we have a number of items on the agenda today. We know that there are a number of people who'd like to do public comment. We have a number of people here today. Those that are online, if you're listening, we urge you to sign up so that we can schedule the time accordingly. So thank you.
Thank you, Wayne, and thank the staff for really getting those funds to us. That's incredible work in Washington and Sacramento. I see there's speakers. Mayor Salati, would you like to make some comments?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I want to just acknowledge and thank South Coast staff for being in my city in Linwood and our district. It was a community meeting for Rule 1180 fence line and a community air monitoring and 1180.1. Thank staff for the presentation. We had a good community members there. I know East Yard folks were there, and they did a good job bringing folks to just learn about what we're doing as an agency. And I think it was good to have it locally in our community. And obviously, it was hosted in the city of Linwood, which is where I reside at. So again, thank you to the entire team. They did a great job. And I was impressed with the teams that we have when representing our staff here. So to Wayne, make sure you say thank you to them as well on my behalf, because they did a great job. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Lock-Dawson.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to announce that I will be attending COP29 in Azerbaijan, Baku, in the next couple of weeks, and I'm really pleased to be representing Southern California there in matters of climate. And as part of the official negotiating team, we'll be sitting on a number of different panels, one of which involves transportation, which I'm looking forward to, all types of transportation, and agreements on which we can try to make an impact on some of our climate goals. And I just wanted to let folks know, and happy to take anything forward from AQMD. If there's anything that you would like to provide, please feel free. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And I see Supervisor Wagner.
I'll be brief, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Just quickly, I am quite happy to be on this board. I do have the privilege and pleasure of knowing a majority of this board from various other stops, either in the legislature, through SCAG, through the county. And so I've had the chance to work with many of you. I look forward to doing it in this capacity as well. And I want to thank staff for the information, and there was a lot out there to try to bring me up to speed as quickly as possible. And so thank you to staff, and I look forward to working in this capacity with the rest of you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Supervisor, and welcome aboard. Follow Supervisor Mitchell. So we've got a public comment is next on the agenda. Again, if you want to speak, please raise your hand online. And Wayne, how many people do we have in person here that want to speak about?
So we have 18 people signed up for public comment, and we already have 10 people online.
Okay, so I want to limit it to, if that's okay with the board, to 2 minutes? 2 minutes, everybody? Okay, thank you. And again, sign up because I'll be cutting off the public comment portion in a minute. So first, do you want to do in person? Okay, who's first in person, Wayne?
First person up is Chris Chavez, followed by Carmen Gonzalez in Spanish.
You can all come up to the front. Chris, welcome again.
Good morning, board members. My name is Chris Chavez, and I'm the Deputy Policy Director at Coalition for Clean Air. First, welcome to our new board member from Orange County, and look forward to working with you in the coming years. Coalition for Clean Air supports AQMD to continue working on the indirect source rule. We all know that rule concepts are still being developed, but it's important to note that nobody is talking about a cargo cap. That is not something that we have brought up, and what we want to see is clean air. I reject that we have to choose between a strong economy and clean air. The emission reductions that have occurred already are proof of that. We continue to have record amounts of cargo coming into the ports, and we have seen emission reductions, but we need to go further because we continue to fail to meet national air quality standards, and the air pollution is not equally distributed in the areas that are most impacted by port pollution. The communities near the ports, communities near freeways, warehouses are all suffering disproportionately from those impacts. I do, congratulate the district for that grant announcement. That is wonderful, and the hard work, and congratulate the hard work of the district, the ports, and the community advocates who all supported those that grant application. But we can't just incentivize our way to clean air. We need to have strong rules to make sure that we are continuing to meet those emission reduction targets, those emission reduction commitments, and eventually bring clean air to the South Coast Air Basin. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chris. Next speaker, Carmen Gonzalez. After that, Paola Vargas and Jesse Parks. Please get close to the microphone so you can follow right up. Go ahead, please.
En español.
Do you have a translator?
Yeah. So she get 4 minutes.
4 minutes. He's coming down right now. Un momento, por favor.
Va a bajar ahorita.
Hola, buenos días. Mi nombre es Carmen González, organizadora con la Colectiva Popular para la Justicia Ambiental.
Good morning. My name is Carmen Gonzalez with the Popular Collective for Environmental Justice.
Estaba escuchando el retiro de uno de los miembros de la mesa.
I've been listening about the retirement of one of the members of the board.
Qué bonito es cuando alguien se retira y todavía tiene vida.
It's very nice when somebody retires and they still have a life ahead of them.
Él dijo muy claro, recuerden que no me he muerto.
He very clearly said, remember, I'm not dead yet.
Pero les recuerdo que para nosotros hoy es un día muy especial, hoy y mañana, porque nosotros celebramos nuestras creencias.
But I want to remind you that today and tomorrow are very special days for us because we celebrate our beliefs.
El Día de los Muertos.
The Day of the Dead.
Por ende, me sonó un poco irónico y también quiero recordarles a ustedes, mesa.
So that sounded that's why it was a bit ironic to me. And I also want to remind you as a board.
Porque mientras haya vida, hay esperanza. Pero
That-
cuando mueres, ya no hay nada.
As long as we're alive, there's still hope, but once you die, there's nothing left.
Y nosotros hemos perdido mucha comunidad
We've lost many people, a lot of them from our community,
por causa del cáncer,
because of cancer,
asma,
asthma,
enfermedades cardiovasculares
and the cardiovascular disease.
y todo esto por el medio ambiente.
All of this because of our environment.
Estoy aquí porque quiero pedirles que ya regularicen
I'm here to ask you because I want you to regularizar qué?
regularicen los puertos.
I would like you to have the rules for the ports.
No permitan que año con año consecutivo siga habiendo más muertes.
Please don't allow the deaths to occur more and more year after year.
Seguimos con el problema de los puertos hasta Inland Empire.
We still have the same problem from the ports all the way to the Inland Empire.
No permitan ustedes que sigan acumulando y siga habiendo más muertes y que cada vez tengamos que venir aquí a recordarles
Please don't allow any more deaths to happen, and so that we don't have to come here every time to remind you about it.
que ustedes están para nosotros, para la comunidad,
You are here for us, for the community.
que queremos trabajar con ustedes, queremos ser amigos de ustedes y ustedes de la comunidad.
We want to work with you. We want to be your friends and you and the community.
Y sería bonito cuando ustedes se retiraran,
It would be very nice that when you retire,
que hablaran de sus anécdotas, como habló el compañero que se retiró, y decir, un día yo ayudé a esta comunidad, apoyé esta regla.
and it would be great that you were able at that time to talk about your anecdotes like this gentleman just did. And it would be nice for you to be able to say at that time, one day I was able to help this community.
Por eso pido que ya no esperen más y afronten lo de la regla de los puertos.
That's why I'm asking you to not wait anymore and to face the rule of the port.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Paolo Vargas and Jesse Parks. After Jesse Parks, will be cutting off the public comment. So if you want to comment, please raise your hand soon. Paola, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Just a second. I'm joined by a couple important people. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Paola Vargas, and I'm a member of East Yard Communities for Environmental Justice. Do you guys want to your nombres?
Buenos días, me llamo Marlene Sánchez.
Good morning, my name is Maria Reyes.
I live less than, the three of us live less than a few miles from the ports in what's known to locals of Carson, Wilmington, San Pedro, and the West Long Beach area as the harbor area. And we made the trip today from there, from down towards the ports to urge you to move forward to with a strong port indirect source rule. You all have a duty to us and our communities to clean the air, period. That's what you're named after. And we haven't even seen the concept or language yet, and it's disappointing to see y'all go back on a rule that could save lives and just fall prey to baseless claims from industry that what the rule could do or would do when we haven't even seen a concept yet or language. And I know staff works very hard, but it's like y'all haven't even tried yet. But no offense to staff, I know y'all work tirelessly too. But these baseless claims aren't a surprise to us, and at this point should not be a surprise to y'all. And it's disappointing to see that it just is you're falling prey to it just time and time again when this shouldn't be a surprise. And I know I'm short on time, but thank you.
Thank you, Paola, for coming. Next speaker is Jesse Parks. Jesse, go ahead and remember, after Jesse speaks, we'll be cutting off public comment. So if you want to comment, raise your hand or turn in your speaker form here. Welcome, Jesse.
Hello. Again, my name is Jesse Parks. I'm a local graduate from UCR, volunteer with the Sierra Club, and organizer with Rainbow Pride Youth Alliance, which is a collective based in the IE that serves LGBTQIA two-spirit youth with overcoming mental health stigma, which can be directly correlated with their mental health and the pollution that we receive here in the Inland Empire. So the bottom line is folks here today and all over the South Coast deserve a healthy life. That means the passing of a robust ports ISR without any delay. The power you representatives hold will change the course of so many futures, and it is paramount. With all the community members here and across the South Coast, we deserve the right to breathe healthy air without deadly pollution. Please hear and act on the demands of your constituents, from students to working parents, and not the industry representing corporate greed. We all know the technology exists, so let's begin to shift from dormant policies to proactive ones now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse, for coming. We'll cut off public comment now and move to Christian Tapia Delgado. Christian, welcome.
Hi, good morning, AQMD board and staff. My name is Christian Tapia. I'm a climate campaigner with Pacific Environment. I'm also an ECR Communities member. As you know, PE holds consultative status at the IMO, the body that sets global shipping standards. Here, we've heard from port authorities, shipping companies, state that they know they need to transition to green, zero-emission technologies and alternatives, as current practices are not sustainable. However, they also need regulatory guidance to ensure a just transition. We're seeing globally just how destructive inaction on regulating fossil fuel pollution has been so far. Record-breaking heat waves each summer, severe storms, floods, hurricanes. But we know that we don't have to widen the lens that much to see the impacts. You're going to hear from many folks today about how health impacts, how many health impacts they have to deal with due to a lack of regulation on ports. There's a lot of concern and worries about unknown variables like the financial cost to the transition. But there are negative impacts that are happening now that the Air District has the legal authority to correct. A strong ports ISR should protect families in their homes from toxic emissions, ensure workers have access to clean, green jobs, and coordinate utility providers to ensure a timely transition. We're here today celebrating Dia de los Muertos with you all, where we created an altar outside. I invite you all to please go and look at it. We're honoring our loved ones who've been battling for regulations like this for a long time to protect our communities. Their advocacy and their stories has helped us regulate other sectors like rail yards and warehouses. So we hope that you will join us in celebrating them by adopting a strong ports ISR without further delay. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Next speaker, Andrea Viraure.
Hello. Hi, board. My name is Andrea. I'm with the People's Collective for Environmental Justice. I just want to start off by saying that I think it's unacceptable that regulating the ports is taking this long. I know this started way before my time, and the fact that we're still lagging our feet on it is ridiculous when we know how much harm that they cause in communities. Today is Dia de los Muertos, and I decided to bring into this space a friend of mine's mom that passed away, who lived in the rail yard community in San Bernardino. And I actually was in this building when I heard about her death. I was in a meeting about the warehouse ISR, and I had to go and grieve outside in that lobby, in this very building, when I heard about that. And she died in her 50s. And it's unacceptable. How is it possible that we're letting so many people shorten their lives because of what? Like tell us to our face, what is the reason that you guys cannot regulate the ports? I know it's not money. You guys just got a whole bunch of money. I know it's not that. So what is it? How, can you please look at the eyes of all these families that are losing people too short and tell them, why is it that we can't regulate the ports that we know is causing so much harm? Because I have to do that. I have to go door to door. I talk to families all the time that are hurting and harming. How many people do you have to talk to that are hurting and harming all the time from death, right? From an unjustified death. So we need a comprehensive approach to the port ISR. It's not just about letting them do some infrastructure and walking away. It's actually about regulating them. We know that the ports are going to grow. We know they're going to continue growing. If we don't get a grasp on it now, how are we ever going to reach attainment? How are we ever going to do anything about pollution, right? This is the opportunity right now, and we shouldn't be spending any more time lagging. It's been years around this process. So please, let's move on the regulation, and thank you to staff for the work they've been doing on it.
Thank you, Andrea. Next speaker, Ali Gallardo. And then after Ali, Alondra Mateo.
As somebody who has spoken to somebody who has been working to try to get the ports with clean air for most of their life, and they're not elderly, I'm a young person who feels like I cannot have children in this world because they're going to be born to a dirty air pollution. And that's me going off the cuff. This is what I've written. I'm sure there are no pleas for a show of humanity that you haven't heard before, but still ignored them. You have shown with your actions and inactions that all these lives are sacrifices you're willing to make for business. Will it take your own children and even future grandchildren to hack up a shriveled lung for you to stop being so complicit and complacent in this pollution? Please wake up. People's loved ones are dying and the sky is getting filled with pollution. You're allowing this. Unalign yourself with selfishness. Let's fix this now for the future. Don't be someone who dooms us all. We all want to live, and we are here because we want a better future. We deserve clean air, and it's supposed to be your job to make that happen. The air goes further than just LA. It travels everywhere. You're helping pollute the world, also by shipping weapons of death and murder. Grow a heart, show some humanity. Show you're human, and stop all weapon shipments to Israel. They are being used on children to blow them to
Please
pieces.
stay on, we have no control over that.
Do you not? Do you not ship weapons to
Continue,
Israel?
please.
Well, that is a part of the pollution as well. So that is what I'm bringing in because the bombs are creating pollution. So if you have any power in that, I'm pleading that you guys stop that as well. And I'm pleading that you guys take action over here to stop the pollution within our own communities. I'm from the IE, and it's bad over there, and it's bad over here, and nothing has been done to change that. So while you're alive, while you guys are still pepping your step, please do something. Don't be the elderly people we.
Thank you, Ali, for coming. Next speaker is Alondra Mateo, followed by Mark Lopez.
Good morning, board and on staff and everyone. I stand here today to ask you to acknowledge that lives are more important than profit. To no fault of our own, our community's life is continuing to be cut short because of air pollution. Each day that passes without regulating the ports is deadly, and life expectancy and survival of our communities depends upon the strength and the movement of the regulations that you have the power to pass. I urge that you please approve the port's ISR ASAP and you mandate that all transition of all vehicles and equipment are zero emissions and clean energy. Biodiesel and hydrogen aren't truly clean, so let's keep going down the path of electrification and protect the life and health of the community and not the profits of the company. Thank you.
Thank you, Alondra. Mark Lopez, followed by Ali Ham.
First priorities, let's go Dodgers. Tried to bring a champagne bottle in here to spray on y'all, but the security is pretty tight in the building. But in all seriousness, it is important to celebrate, right? The over $1 billion that are coming to our region, specifically to resource, finding solutions to the issues that many of us have been fighting for, some folks for generations, right? And it reminded me of the infrastructure advocacy that we were doing in Washington, D.C., 2 administrations ago. The last administration was not interested, but the administration before. We were talking about the future of the country, not just the South Coast, but the entire country. And so we had a pause, right? We had a pause at the national level. We had folks fleeing US EPA, coming back to California, many of them. And luckily, there's been some transition, right? A local representative, Barragan, is somebody who we've advocated to and has pushed and supported these resources coming to our region. So all of that is important to acknowledge. We see those as victories. But policy with vision is what's needed to balance that, right? A ton of resources without policy, without implementation of policies is a threat as much as it is an opportunity. And so we're asking the board to be bold, right? We're asking you all to meet the moment, to be conveners, to pull everybody together, because everyone's pointing at everybody else as to why they can't move the ball forward. but everything stops with you all. You are the ones who can make the policy and make Port ISR happen now. That's you all. There's no one else for you all to point at. And so
Thank you. Next, Ali, followed by Diego Mayen and Kimberly Amaya.
Hi, good morning. My name is Ali Ham. I'm an attorney with Natural Resources Defense Council's Environment, Equity, and Justice Center. Thank you. I didn't know it could move. Thanks. It's really nice to see you all today. I just wanted to give you all a moment to kind of take in the comments that you're hearing about health impacts in the region. They're not easy stories to tell. It's really painful for people to have to share, the harms and the health impacts that their family members face from port and ship emissions. And I'm really grateful that you all are moving forward in considering this ports and direct source rule, because it is a matter of life and death. It's a matter of public health for communities near the ports. We sent in a letter yesterday, and I hope that you all take time to read through our recommendations. There have been a lot of letters going out opposing the ports ISR without substantive arguments. There have been arguments that the ports ISR will make AQMD ineligible for federal funds. That's just plainly not true. The real risk is for federal sanctions that are potentially coming your way if we don't reach attainment. This is a possible solution. The ports ISR is possible. It's within reach. The EPA funding that's been handed down was named today. An impact project played a huge role in working with the Port of LA to secure that funding. And now we're looking to the ports, we're looking to AQMD to step up and protect our communities. We've done the work over the years. We're ready for this ports ISR to save lives. And the technology is there. It's developing quickly. The funding is there. We just want to make sure the funding is used in a way that's protective, that's responsible. We agree on the need for transmission infrastructure. We agree on the need for charging infrastructure. We just want direction. We want to see coordination. We want to see people's lives protected. And it's a simple ask, and it shouldn't take, fighting over to get to the solution. So looking forward to working together on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ali. Next, Diego, and then Kimberly. Welcome, Diego.
Hello, good morning. My name is Diego May, and I'm a community organizer with Healthy Active Streets and a member of East Yard Communities for Environmental Justice. And I was also here today to give public comment to urge the board to adopt a strong port ISR. As we've heard already from the previous speakers, I've also grew up in a community directly affected by port pollution, which is West Long Beach. And I grew up doing all of my schooling from elementary school to high school there. And over that time, I saw a lot of my peers and classmates develop asthma. I was also using an inhaler when I was younger. And there's just a lot of pollution in the area, so much so that I remember, and a lot of my classmates also remember, not being able to go outside during lunch or breaks where we were supposed to be outside due to the amount of pollution in the area, which is also contributed by the ports. So I would urge that historically the board has done a couple of steps and made a little bit of progress towards reducing emissions. But as you've heard from a lot of people before me, that this port ISR is going to save lives, and is an opportunity for you guys to also change the history of the board not doing enough to protect the communities that are infected by port pollution, stationary sources of pollution, and all the other things that are attributed to air quality. So again, just urge you all to really consider this as an opportunity to help change your history of not standing by community, and then make that change now to be able to save lives in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kimberly. Welcome, Kimberly, followed by Emily Quest and Fernando Gaitan.
Good morning, board. I'm Kimberly Amaya, and I'm a member of ECR Communities for Environmental Justice and a lifelong West Long Beach resident. So my community is one that resides near the ports, and we are just one of many communities nearby that have to deal with the brunt of pollution coming from the ports. And I'm not here just for myself, but also for future generations to ask you to implement a strong port ISR. And a strong port ISR should have three components that it should have is emissions reduction requirements, infrastructure planning requirements and benchmarks, and monitoring and record keeping requirements. It's been a decade or so with all with these ports talking about like Port ISR, and I just don't want to delay this any longer and to disregard like our community's health. We deserve clean air, and I hope that you guys really take this into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Emily Quest. Welcome, Emily, followed by Fernando Gaitan.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I live on the 710 wall on Gill Avenue near Garfield Elementary School. So I'm next to also Cabrillo High School that's down by the port. We were just thinking something, you know, we talk on the way here, we carpool. So then we're all talking to each other, and I would just like the Port of Long Beach to be the greatest port in the world. I would like to take in more trucks. I would like to take in more goods, and I would like to take it in clean for us. It's very, we see daily the trains and the trucks and the noises, and I can sit on my porch and have coffee, and I'm looking at how many trucks are going by. So all I can tell you is I want to brag about the Port of Long Beach. I want to say that we kick you know what. And I want to be better than China, and I want to be better than any other port in the United States, because we live here, we work here, we unload, we load, we deal with traffic, we deal with the homeless, we deal with the air, we deal with the death. And I'm just another mom that kicks ass living next to the 710. So thank you. I would like to brag instead of coming here and saying, oh man, you guys, we got a lot of, I'm just sitting here, and I'll be honest, it affects my health. I start to shake. I think my blood pressure goes up and I take the pill. But I'm the one that's gonna die, and I'm the one.
Thank you very much, Emily, for coming today. Next speaker is Fernando Gaitan, followed by Thurl Golden. Welcome, Fernando.
Good morning, Fernando Gaitan with Earth Justice. Last month, we heard a report from staff on the warehouse and direct source rule. And what we learned there is that in the case of the ISR for the warehouses, it catalyzed investments in infrastructure, resulted in actual emission reductions, and actually facilitated new actions by businesses to support zero emissions technology. And these types of actions are the types of actions that we need in order to meet the non-attainment and public health crisis that we currently face. I raise this because the work does not end there with the warehouse ISR. For decades, we've known that pollution derived from freight, and particularly the ports, really harms communities. And it's worth remembering that the very same profit-motivated entities and industry lobbying groups tried to spread misinformation and block progress on that life-saving rule back then, and they're doing it again now. They said then that technology was not available to ensure compliance, and yet hundreds of zero emissions units have been deployed as a result of the rules being passed. They said that the ISR would not result in achievable quantifiable emission reductions, and yet we're seeing that in effect today. They also said that they would result in job losses and businesses leaving the state, and yet the warehouse industry continues to boom in the Inland Empire and throughout the region. And so today I'm asking you not to be swayed by these same delay tactics as you can contemplate life-saving rules like the port and direct source rule. We urge you to learn from past lessons, stay true to the agency's public health mission, and stay the course and complete the port ISR. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. Next, Thurl. Welcome, Thurl, followed by Jennifer Cardenas, Mark Lopez, and Thomas Hellenick.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Thurl Golden. I live in West Long Beach, California. I'm a member of the West Long Beach Association, and this is my neighbor, one of them. And she has a compelling story, but it's hundreds, if not thousands, of just as many compelling stories in that community. And it is extremely difficult for them to recognize that you will not help them. That's what this is about. Earlier, one of the speakers said, we are a community. And that's what it is. You are the representatives of each of these communities in this district. And you should be working hard to provide the protection needed for the residents of this district. That has been lackluster in some instances, and with the ports, it's almost not happening at all. The ports are making progress, but people are still dying. Dying must stop. We cannot pay for the goods movement with our blood, and that's what's happening. People are losing their lives. I've recently lost 2 close friends, both at an early age, and that should not be acceptable in a democracy. This is for the people. Everything else comes second. The people comes first. Our jobs, our passions, everything comes through the people. We are going through an extreme difficult time right now, but we shall survive. We shall come through. But we need your help to get this done. And ISR is a means of help. And that's what is being asked of you to do. Get the pressure off of our community. We cannot survive forever. In the last 5 years, 6,000 people in these communities have died.
Thank you, Thurl. Jennifer, followed by Mark and Thomas.
Oh, my bad. There we go. So good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Cardenas. I am here with the Sierra Club, and I'm also getting to celebrate El Día de los Muertos with you all. This is a day we celebrate to honor our ancestors, but what does it look like when, as a community organizer, I see that our ancestors are getting younger? Those pictures are of people's grandparents who they've never met. I'm from the Inland Empire, and I know what the warehouse ISR can do for my community. It could reflect very differently in a few years what our ancestors will look like when we put them on our altar. And right now, what you're seeing is that you continue to allow my community and all the communities that we represent to celebrate days like today, but they're honoring their grandparents that they never met. They're honoring their family that they never met. They're honoring children that lost their lives early that they never got to meet. Our culture is not something that we display just because we celebrate with you all. It's also to celebrate their lives. The Port ISR will grant our neighbors in the West Coast the same opportunity that the warehouse ISR is going to grant us, which is an extension of our lives, an extension to be able to celebrate what it looks like to actually have an altar for your ancestors instead of an altar for people that just died that you never got to meet. You get to sit up there and look at us, but we don't get to retire like you do. We get to have generation after generation showing up to advocate to y'all. And while your faces will change, our lives will end. So we're asking you, what is the Port ISR really going to do for us? It's going to do everything. It's life-saving. Logistics and the industry will always be thriving, and you can thrive with us. And we really hope that you get to know us because we're going to keep coming. So thank you. Have a nice day.
Next, Thomas. Mark, you spoke already, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, it was an administrative error on our end because I was going to interpret for Maria, but they accidentally put my name in instead of Maria's name.
Did she speak yet, or?
No, she came in.
She came as a guest, right? Okay.
Yeah, but she didn't speak.
Bay, is that okay?
We have a translator, so we could provide the translator for her.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Thanks, Mark.
Hola, buenos días. Mi nombre es María Reyes.
Hello, good morning. My name is Maria Reyes.
Y voy a decir algo porque estaba atrás observando y aprendí hace algunos años. Una vez mi hija llegó de la escuela y estaba hablando conmigo y yo estaba entretenida haciendo otras cosas o mirando hacia otro lado.
And I was back here and I learned something. One time when my child came from school, she was talking to me and I was entertained doing some other things.
Y me dijo, mami, por favor, mírame cuando te hablo, mírame a los ojos. Y yo estaba
And-
mirando que muchos de ustedes, las personas, están viniendo a dar su testimonio y no están mirando, están viendo hacia abajo o con sus computadoras o sus teléfonos. Perdón por esto, pero lo tenía que decir.
And so I was doing something else while my daughter was talking to me, and she said, "You know what? I would like you to look at me when I'm talking to you." My daughter told me. So when I was back there, I was noticing that while people come here and talk to you, most of you are not looking at them. You're looking down. And I'm sorry, but I had to tell you this.
Disculpen por eso, pero... aparte de eso, estoy muy contenta porque van a hacer esta medida para el puerto y siempre lo estuve esperando porque en la organización donde yo soy voluntaria, en ISYAR y la Alianza de Long Beach para Niños con Asma,
Un momentito. And well, besides that, I'm very happy about this regulation that you are considering. I am from Long Beach with a group for children.
siempre he escuchado que el puerto hace un estudio de las emisiones que emiten por el desarrollo que ahí hacen.
And I know that the port has a report about the emissions that they produce because of
Y-
their operations.
Y como no es mandatorio, pues a mí no se me hace justo y no se me hace exacto, porque algo que no es mandatorio, siento no nos están diciendo la verdad.
And it's not mandatory. So I feel that sometimes when things are not mandatory, they are not accurate or fair. So I think that maybe they're not telling
Y
us
si
the
ahora
truth.
podemos ganar esta medida, me alegra y espero que AQMD la haga cumplir, no como muchas otras medidas que no las hacen cumplir y las pasan por alto.
So I hope that if you pass this measure, that you also enforce it, unlike many other measures that are not enforced and are just there after they pass.
Porque es muy justo y necesitamos que hagan justicia porque tenemos derecho a respirar, a tener unas buenas calles, a tener control de la luz, del ruido y de muchísimas cosas que nos
Because-
afectan por causa del puerto.
Because it's fair, we deserve to have clean air, nice, good roads, and we deserve to have solutions of the many things that affect us through the port.
Y espero que hagan un buen trabajo
I hope that you do a good job.
porque tantas medidas y tantas cosas y siempre estamos nosotros esperando por justicia, por poder respirar.
Because
porque
we're always
cambio-
waiting for justice and we're always waiting to be able to breathe.
Porque este cambio haría un gran impacto, sería
This
muy
change-
aportativo para la salud, para la comunidad, para nuestros ancianos y niños.
This change would have a great benefit. It would help the health of our children, of the elderly as well.
Muchísimas gracias. A veces siento que no es suficiente el tiempo que nos dan para hablar sobre tantos problemas,
Thank-
toda la problemática, y no estoy en contra del desarrollo económico.
Un segundito, porque si no se me olvida. Thank you, but I feel that sometimes you don't give us enough time to talk about all these problems. I'm all for economic and progress.
Con esto espero que se beneficien ellos, pero nosotros también en gran parte.
And
Muchísimo.
I hope that this will help them get benefit, but us as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria, very much. Thomas, welcome.
Good morning, Vice Chair. Good morning, Board. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Thomas Yelenich with the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association, representing the marine terminal operators and ocean carriers in the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. Also, Supervisor Wagner, welcome. Look forward to working with you. First, I want to start off with something we heard last month. Last month, the ports released their emissions inventories. The ports have collectively reduced their diesel pollution by 91%. That's huge. They've reduced NOx emissions by 72%. That is an enormous scale. And they've reduced emissions faster than this region has as a whole. So the ports are actually doing their fair share and going faster than the region in terms of us collectively reaching our attainment goals. I would also like to highlight what Wayne talked about in terms of the grant funding, $300 million that was awarded a while ago to the Port of Long Beach, $400 million to the Port of Los Angeles. I believe a portion of that is a result of the joint advocacy, PMSA, AQMD, the two ports, and many of the environmental organizations in this group did in Washington in January of this year. I hope we do that again. And this focus of infrastructure is important. And, so I want to thank you today that staff has scheduled for November 13th, a workshop on infrastructure in the ports. I think there is growing consensus that we need to focus on infrastructure. Infrastructure is the issue that will make the emission reductions we need in the ports real. And so the focus by the staff and this board on infrastructure will lead us to the goals that we all need to get to a zero emissions port. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Then we'll go online speakers. Wayne, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, we were originally planning to do the working group on the 13th, but we'll be changing it to the 15th. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. First speaker we have still on this item, public comment, Julia May. Julia, go ahead, please. Followed by Ranji George.
Good morning, Julia May, Communities for a Better Environment, CBE, here to talk about another massive community air pollution source, the oil refineries. Though I want to strongly support comments made by East Yard and others on the need to clean up the ports through the ISR. But regarding the oil refineries, yesterday we forwarded to board members some dramatic video footage of flaring at the Marathon refinery that happened earlier this month. If you haven't noticed, please check it out. It's very short and surprising. This was videoed by the son of community members William and Faye Kuntz, who serve on many advisory and boards and committees, including AB 617. Their son just happened to be up at 2 in the morning and was able to catch one of the most extreme flaring events I've seen. We still don't know the extent of the emissions, but we did forward it to staff. Please note, this is just one visible example showing what refinery neighbors are subjected to on a regular basis, and why community members depend on the district for strong regulation and enforcement. The refineries were able to defeat commitments in the flaring rule earlier this year, requiring live online video monitoring. Now we're back with neighbors having to document it in real time, and frequently the refineries don't report it to the district when it's happening. We appreciate your staff's hard work and yours. The good news is that there are many well-known, readily available, technologically and economically achievable measures that could be adopted. One very simple measure that the board committed to in the past that fell through the cracks during the pandemic was to simply update the district's air quality events page on refinery and other air quality incidents. So we'd appreciate the board and staff revisiting this commitment so people can tell what happened, what was the cause, what were the emissions during such a.
Thank you. Next is Ranji George, followed by Al Sattler. Ranji, go ahead, please.
Hello, this is Ranji George. Good morning, Vice Chairman and the board. I just want to express a comment on a previous speaker. He says to control emissions, you could cap the volume of products and services at the ports. My concern is that's authority limited. Only Congress can do that under the Interstate Commerce Clause, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. So you may have to work with the Congress to do that, but it's a concept worth exploring. Then going on to the other subject about funding for the $1 billion we got in the basin for electric EV infrastructure. Congratulations. But my concern is how much of that money is being allocated to study on EV battery recycling. It's going to be one of the major sources of pollution in this basin in the future years. Future generations have to deal with it. And they have to build really large-scale battery recycling facilities. And most of this will be, in fact, all of it, will be in the EJ areas. And since many of the environmental groups and board members come from non-EJ middle-class areas, and none of these will be in these middle-class areas, they are not expressing concern about it. So I urge the board members to take the initiative, set aside some funding to see how these batteries can be recycled without causing the great amount of distress to the neighboring residents. It is going to happen. We have had so many of these battery recycling facilities under lawsuits for years, for 30 years.
Thank you, Ranji. Next is Al Sattler, followed by Laura, then Clyde F. Al, go ahead, please.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the new board member. And I want to say, yes, the air in the LA basin is cleaner than I remember from the 1970s. In retrospect, I was probably being afflicted by asthma after doing significant exercise when I lived in the San Gabriel Valley. We still have people suffering from asthma and lung cancer here in the Air Quality Management District Basin, so we know we have more to do. With respect to the port ISR, we are not trying to shut the ports down. We just want them to act to stop having pollution that afflicts people, nitrous oxides in particular, also particulates. And again, we're not trying to shut the ports down, but keep in mind that Donald Trump might shut the ports down. He is talking about, he doesn't like imports. He's talking about putting massive tariffs on imports, especially from China, and that would definitely reduce the amount of shipping coming into the port. So that's one thing to keep in mind here. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Al. Laura, followed by Clyde F. Go ahead, Laura.
Good morning, board. My name is Laura. I live on the occupied Tongva lands of Bell Gardens in Southeast Los Angeles, and I'm also with East Yard Communities for Environmental Justice. I am calling in today to ask that the AQMD board and staff prioritize a port's ISR. I live in Southeast LA, which is 17 miles from the Port of Long Beach. We are impacted by the ports. We receive pollution from the ports. Port activities are part of the cumulative impacts that we experience. A port's ISR must include emissions reductions requirements, infrastructure planning requirements and benchmarks, and monitoring and record keeping requirements, not or, and all three of these. We have all seen that policy and enforcement will reduce air emissions significantly more than any voluntary programs or incentive programs. Inaction from y'all is just as bad as the polluters at this point. It is complicity. I've been dedicating my life to uplifting environmental health for 10 years now, and I continue to have hope that this board, that all of our agencies will focus on policy and enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Clyde F., followed by Fernando Marquez Duarte. Clyde, go ahead, please.
Hello, I'm not Clyde, I'm Diane of Petridge Flowers. I'm getting pretty old, almost 80, and I've lived all over the port, walking distance in Pedro and West Long Beach, West Wilmington to the docks, walking distance East Wilmington to the Alameda Corridor, North Long Beach, walking distance to the corner of the 710 and 91, lots of ships, lots of trains, lots of trucks, and I forgot my mom's place in Riverside. Far as you can see, warehouses. The port is everywhere. I unite with the speaker who just said they're far away, but the port is there. And I want to say something important. I stand with labor. My family for generations has worked in the port. Every job, longshore, fishing. My husband was president of the shipyard union. My dad was a tugboat pilot. Anyway, I see this as the same fight. The community and labor, we're one. You know, we need clean air. We need clean water. We need clean land. We need not to be sick. We need not to die. When I lived in East Wilmington, I got so sick, I could not get out of bed. for weeks and months. I had to move. A wonderful community, but I could not survive there. And I understand what the ladies have been saying. I've seen a lot of changes in my time. And one thing I want to talk about is being the biggest port in the country or the world or wherever is not a good thing. This reckless, unplanned competition and growth is killing us. It's killing the infrastructures in our community. It's killing our health. It's not just the air, it's other things too, but this is your job, the air. I won't talk about the rest. But
Thank you, Diane. Next is Fernando Marquez Duarte, followed by Jeff, then Harvey Etter.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Fernando Marquez Duarte, policy researcher with the People's Collective for Environmental Justice and political science PhD from the University of California, Riverside. I'm speaking today, obviously, to urge you to approve the Ports ISR. I'm really happy to have heard several colleagues and community members talking about the impacts, and just wanted to highlight a couple things, so not to repeat what it has been said before. This ports ISR is necessary because, as you know, all the goods that come through the LA and LB ports, they go to the IE, whether we want it or not. Over 40% of the goods moved in the country are moved through the logistics complex in the Inland Empire, and that generates a lot of rail and truck traffic, a lot of emissions, including very polluting emissions like nitrogen oxides, greenhouse gas, particulate matter 10 and 2.5. All of those, generate asthma, lung disease, cancer, and several people of the community in the San Bernardino area have died from cancer and are struggling to survive because of the diseases. So, and port communities also have, several and serious health consequences on that. So, and I just want to say that with this ports ISR, I think it's the only way we could solve this problem, because we need accountability. We don't need voluntary measures. We need accountability to the community, because the community, we are the ones who are suffering all the negative consequences. So please go on and approve this much necessary ports ISR. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. Jeff, followed by Harvey Etter. Go ahead, Jeff.
Right, there's the unmute. All right, yeah, Jeff Fowler with the Apartment Owners Association of California. And I suffered a toxic bone marrow injury, so I know firsthand what it's like to suffer at pollution. And literally, I almost lost my life. It took a bone marrow transplant. I had a 66% chance of living, and here I am today. And I do want to say that there has been a tremendous amount of work done at the port, and I really thank you so much for that. And according to just the census data, it looks like, or inner body, actually, California ranks the first in health, and the fittest, and healthy eating is second. And all of that, even though we are considered to be the worst polluter in the state, in the country. And so I think we've done a lot, and yes, there's a lot of work to do, but I think we need to just realize the impact that this and other measures, environmental measures, have on just the rest of the things, with housing. Already Blacks and Hispanics are more likely to be cost burden, more likely to be overcrowded and at risk of eviction and displacement. And the more we raise costs on things like this, the more we regulate, the more we do here, the more everybody's costs are going up. So I just want people to think about that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Harvey Etter. Harvey, go ahead, please.
Good morning. Am I being heard?
Yes, you are, Harvey. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Harvey Etter. I'm speaking for myself and for Public Solar Power Coalition. I'm going to jump on several things. Okay, we'll give you notice of taking action on this $1 billion and subparts of it that's coming in. That the process is not due process. We put in the Solar New Deal, 8-10 years ago, et cetera, run out of court by the feds, marshals, et cetera. No help from y'all, CARB or EPA, okay? This environmental justice stuff, this is outrageous, okay? The deaths, 80-90% come from PM 2.5. You brought this up for the MATE study. It's not recognized as a toxic under federal law as criteria, but it needs the advantage of the legal of that and et cetera. And we need legislation. You got to do that. It's important. Okay, energy and economy, energy, food and energy for inflation, significant part. And it's like 10-15%, okay? What's happening over in the Middle East? Okay, what's really happening is the Arabs, the oil folks, and the oil companies. Okay,
Mr. Eder,
fossil
please keep
fuels,
your
all right?
comments to items that within the jurisdiction of this committee, this body. Thank you.
Harvey, go ahead and wrap it up. Go ahead. Harvey, just keep on tracking. Go ahead. You can finish up.
This is outrageous. This is a pattern of silencing the people, of stifling the truth. And it's outrageous, and it shouldn't be counted as our time, and we should have more time. And 2/3 of Palestinians live in Jordan. Jordan was formed in 46. Israel 40. It was part of the deal. Should have.
Thank you, Harvey. Next is Marvin Norman, followed by Marlon D. Vargas.
Good morning, board, members of the public. My name is Marvin Norman, San Bernardino resident and policy coordinator with CCAJ, and I'm here in support of other community members and groups which are calling on the ports to move forward and pass the ISR, the ports ISR. The ports are continuing to be one of the largest polluters in the region, and I was in CARB meeting a couple months ago when Mr. Nastri and I forget his name right now. But anyway, you guys were at CARB asking for the permission for the PM 2.5 plan, and as noted at that meeting, Ian, sorry, Ian was there, and one of the things we were going over was that there are only so many things which are within control of AQMD, and the ports are somewhat one of them. So it's important that we move forward with these rules, which are part of the plans, which we keep asking CARB and EPA to approve, which we say we're going to clean up. I know many of you saw the letter earlier this year about the EPA threatening to not approve some of the existing or to find area non-attainment. And I know there's much gnashing of teeth as people were scared that they might lose their highway money. But yet the AQMD refuses to move forward with it's showing willingness to waiver and moving forward with the port ISR that would help bring in compliance. So it seems kind of counterproductive, especially given that we just this week we're celebrating getting $400 million for doing exactly what the ISR would require the ports to do. So it's not like it even has to as much that we're already $400 million closer to meeting the ISR. So the AQMD needs to pass it. Thank you.
Next is Marlon D. Vargas, followed by Victor Reyes.
Good morning, AQMD board and staff. My name is Marlon Dewoji Vargas, and I work with the Long Beach Alliance for Children with Asthma. We work in cities with communities that continuously fail to meet federal air pollution standards, and we see the manifestation of that in their lived experience and in their health. We have some of the highest rates of asthma. Children are missing school due to asthma episodes. Guardians and caretakers are missing days from work, and the rates of emergency room and hospital visits due to asthma are increasing. I do believe we're all well aware of the impacts that particulate matter has on our health, whether that's reduced lung function, respiratory illnesses, or cardiovascular illnesses and diseases. There is a need to continue highlighting and presenting this information to you all to help you make the most informed decision to better help serve the communities that you are currently in a position to protect. Protecting public health and our community's well-being should be all of our top priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlon. Our final two speakers will be Victor Reyes, although you raise your hand after. We'll let you go. Victor, and then Sylvia Betancourt. Go ahead, please.
Hello, good morning. My name is Victor Reyes here on behalf of VICA, the Valley Industry and Commerce Association, and we are respectfully urging the board to delay the public comment hearing for PAR 1111 and PAR 1121 by 90 days to ensure sufficient public outreach.
Thank you,
and
Mr. Reyes.
stakeholder
That's actually an item that's on the agenda. I believe it's agenda item number 2A, and you can make your comments at that time.
Thank you, Victor. Hang around. Next speaker is Sylvia Betancourt. This is public comment. Items not on our agenda. Sylvia, go ahead, please.
Good morning, board members. Sylvia Betancourt with Long Beach Alliance for Children with Asthma. We're based at Miller Children's and Women's Hospital of Long Beach, and we're part of the Pediatric Asthma Center of Excellence. It's a designation that really was determined as a result of the extreme air pollution in our region and the higher rates of children with asthma. As we all are very well aware, we know that children who grow up near diesel sources of pollution have higher rates of asthma, and as Marlon mentioned, a reduced lung function. This is something that needs to be addressed. We cannot wait any longer. When children come out of the hospital and they come home to their neighborhood, to their school, they're returning to an area that is polluted with diesel pollution. We know that this needs to be addressed. Unfortunately, this doesn't happen on its own. We know that the improvements in air quality have really been as a result of community advocacy and even having to go to the point of litigation. Since 2005, those lawsuits really were the impetus to improving air quality. We're not saying that we want the ports to go away. We're not saying that they haven't taken some steps to improve the way that they operate. We know, though, that this really comes from enforcement. And what we need is something that is measurable and enforceable. So we provide this information to you so that you can make the best decisions for our communities and for the children in these communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That wraps up the public comment portion of our agenda. We now move to the consent and board calendar items. That's items 1 through 19. I'll look to my board members if you have any disclosure or you want to pull any item from our consent board calendar. Mayor McCallum, please.
Mr. Chair, I would request that we take item 2A separately.
Okay, item 2A. Supervisor Perez.
Just real quick, for agenda item number 6, I do not have a financial interest, but I am identifying for the record that I am a board member for the California Resources Board, which is involved in this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Krakoff.
Yes, I have the same disclosure for agenda item 6. I'm required to identify for the record that I'm a board member for the California Air Resources Board, which is involved in this item.
Board members, any more disclosures? Or you want to pull an item from the consent and board calendar? I will pull item number 12. If staff may want to do a quick presentation on item number 12, the annual progress reports, AB 617 community emission reduction plans. And it looks like we've got item 2A also pulled by the public, Larry. I'll entertain a motion for the remainder of the consent calendar, items 1 through 19.
Move the rest of the agenda.
Who
So
moved it?
Mr.
Larry?
Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'd recommend that we take public comment.
Which items?
Actually, it doesn't seem like anybody is signed up online here for this one. But I'm not sure about the other people that are signed up online. If they're
Take public comment first, Bay.
at least for the people that are online. It's
Okay.
not clear what they're signed up for.
Okay, looks like the ones that are here is for 2A and then the public hearing. Okay, well, before we take that motion, we'll take 3 speakers and we'll cut it off at Ron G. George. First speaker is Ann Pernick. Ann, if you can please tell us which item you're testifying on.
Hi, my name's Ann Pernick. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I might be in the wrong section. I wanted to speak to rules 1111 and 1121.
That's 2A, which has been pulled, so we'll hold her comment until that time.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Harvey, which item would you like to speak to?
Hello, there's, okay, 12 is about 617 plans, is that correct?
Yes.
I want to speak on that.
Okay.
And also, there's maybe others anyway, but that, okay.
So number 12, Harvey, thank you. That's been pulled. And Ranji George, Ranji, which item would you like to speak about?
The item number 18, Technology Committee, the Clean Air Plan, the draft Clean Air Plan.
Go ahead,
Or
Ranji.
the draft.
Go ahead. You got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Ranji George. I was with the Technology Advancement Office in the 90s and in the, and 10 years afterwards. I was involved in the technology advancement, crafting of the technology advancement plans, as similar to the one being proposed under the Technology Committee. And I'm kind of disappointed, very disappointed that the amount for hydrogen has been lowered substantially. Every year we had the plan which kept funding separate for hydrogen at a 25-30% range, and now it's been cut down. The reason we did for hydrogen is because the establishment was not funding hydrogen. They were going into mainly natural gas and other electric vehicles. So that was the reason. And now our board and staff seems to be moving that way as well. So I would urge you to put funding back to hydrogen, create projects, and don't wait for federal and state to create the project. We created projects to move forward with the knowledge of hydrogen. For example, right now we need more mobile refuelers. You know, one refueler finally has been brought in, but we need several of them because hydrogen stations need a backup when the hydrogen supplies are limited. So that's one important facility. Then the other thing is many of these nozzles are failing. Apparently in hydrogen stations, my friends who have hydrogen cars saying these nozzles don't work, and the customer service was provided by the owners of these facilities are very poor. So could look into this, fix it, because these are fixable problems. Thirdly, Shell has announced they are withdrawing from hydrogen stations, and I would urge you to bring some people back to take over their stations. Maybe Chevron can be persuaded, maybe other parties can be persuaded. So there are so many things, and then there are these.
Thank you, Raji, again. Now we'll go back to the vote on the board and consent calendar, and it's all items 1 through 19 except for items 2A, which appears to be a lot of public comment, and Mayor McCallum pulled an item number 12, which I pulled for a staff report. With that, we had a motion by, I believe it was Larry, and also by Mayor Salache, second of a vote. Cast your vote in front of you. Lock it in. Faye, is that everybody? It looks like 10 yes, 0 no. Okay, it passes. So let's go to item, that's okay with everybody, item 2A. We'll hear public comment first. And Mayor, you'd like to speak?
No, I just want to hear the public comment, and then I'd like to speak after that.
Thanks, Larry. So let's go to Chris Chavez first, followed by Peter Whittingham. Chris, are you here? Chris Chavez. We'll come back. Peter, please. Welcome, Peter.
Good morning, Chair Cacciati and governing board members. My name is Peter Whittingham, and I'm honored to provide brief remarks on behalf of LA BizFed. BizFed has provided several comment letters regarding proposed amended rules 1111 and 1121. Our most recent letters submitted in the last few days detailed the significant concerns that exist with these rules, which include their very real potential to detrimentally impact the region's housing market, which is already at crisis levels. We have shared cost estimates provided by licensed contractors and received bids from various vendors to retrofit 2 different multifamily communities. These estimates included all of the work necessary to complete the changeover to 100% electrical furnaces and hot water heaters, other than the expenses landlords and property owners will incur to relocate tenants and complete this work. The estimated per unit cost for a more modern community built in 2008 was just over $37,000, and the cost for a 1970s era garden style apartment complex was nearly $73,000 per unit. We have also shared construction schedules for the work that will be required, again based upon bids provided by plumbers, electricians, and other relevant contractors. Without question, this work will require the relocation of residents for days or weeks at a time, and this, along with the incredible cost, could very likely lead to evictions of many thousands of renters. Our most recent letter focused on the draft supplemental environmental assessment for these rules. Unfortunately, the draft SEA fails to fully acknowledge that a portion of the severity of the environmental impacts of these rules is due to accelerating implementation of low and zero NOx appliance replacements compared to implementing the control measures as analyzed in the 2022 final program EAR. We've not heard an explanation as to why implementation timeframes contained within the draft rules have been advanced earlier than that contemplated in the 2022 Air Quality Management Plan. In conversations with many BizFed members, we hear over and over again that their employees and others they speak with are completely unaware of these proposed rules. We strongly encourage the district to initiate a public awareness campaign prior to governing board consideration of these rules to solicit all perspectives. And we would encourage the governing board to defer consideration.
Thank you, Peter. Next speaker is Chris, come on down, and then followed by Corey Griggs. After Corey, I'm going to cut off public comment in the building and also online. So if you want to speak on this item 2A, please raise your hand in the next couple of minutes. Chris, go ahead, please.
Great. Good morning. Chris Chavez, Coalition for Clean Air again. We support the motion to set the rules for hearing in December, Rule 1111 and 1121. We appreciate the diligent work of staff in getting these rules to this point. Staff has worked to accommodate stakeholder feedback endlessly. This process has taken over a year, if not longer, and all these meetings have been publicly noticed and have been put out there for people to participate in, much like all your other rules that you've passed. If passed, these two rules are expected to reduce pollution by 10 tons of NOx per day, eliminating 12% of the region's stationary NOx source. Given our status as the smoggiest air basin in the country and being an extreme non-attainment for multiple air quality standards, we cannot squander this opportunity. The district is committed through its AQMD to pass these rules. The time to fulfill that commitment is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Corey?
Good morning, Mike. Good morning. My name's Corey Griggs, indoor weather heating and air contractor up in Lake Arrowhead. I'd like to thank the staff directly. They came up a couple weeks ago and we worked together for a whole entire day. It was very productive. And they've recognized some of the issues that we're having up in the colder environments that will be affected by this regulation. And they're working with us, and I hope they continue to do so. I do think that it would be wise that we delay this further. There's more information to be gathered. I do not believe that the public has been made aware of the implications of this amendment, of these amendments. Anybody that I've talked to, they have no idea what's about ready to happen. I've just done math recently, and at least in our environment, it's a 300% increase in utility costs, even with the highest efficiency equipment, due to the fact that our electricity bills in Southern California are outstandingly high compared to other areas. My father in Arizona, he'd be an absolute fool to not switch to a heat pump system. But he pays 10 cents a kilowatt hour, and I pay on average 40 cents a kilowatt hour, and the math just doesn't work out. Also, he's in a propane area, and we are natural gas. The Department of Energy actually just put out that natural gas is almost 300% less expensive per million BTUs than electricity. So we need other programs involved to help lower our utility bills before we switch to these things, because we do need a switch, no doubt about it. But we have to be able to afford to live and work also in this region. And I think we should concentrate on those things.
Thank you, Corey, for coming again. Next speaker is Brendan Wade Brown, and followed by Kevin Barker.
Right. Good morning, and thank you, Vice Chair and Governing Board. Welcome to the new Supervisor Wagner. My name is Brendan Brown, and I work on behalf of the Green and Healthy Homes Initiative, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to addressing the social determinants of health and the advancement of racial and health equity through the creation of healthy, safe, and energy-efficient homes. I'm here as a public health practitioner, indoor air quality expert, environmental health scientist to support the proposed amended rules 1111 and 1121. These rules take critical steps towards reducing emissions of nitrous oxides and other harmful pollutants, particularly particulate matter, the phasing out of combustion appliances and phasing in of zero emission appliances. Could be electric or natural gas, but zero emission appliances will result in cleaner air and healthier communities in the South Coast Air Quality Management District. Combustion of fossil fuels in homes and businesses in the region releases over 13,000 tons of nitrogen dioxide daily and more than 1,200 tons of fine particulate matter each year. These pollutants are harmful to human health. Zero emissions appliances for space and water heating are safe and proven technology for households. And making addressing the appliances pollution an attractive target for primary disease prevention, specifically cardiovascular disease and respiratory diseases. PARS 1111 and 1121 would result in the reduction and elimination of air pollution from homes and businesses that are harmful both to the environment and human health. I skip here. So avoidance of these harmful exposures is a key component of national and international guideline recommendations of asthma management. These rules will help mitigate harmful exposures. In conclusion, by passing PARS 1111 and 1121, the Air District will improve air quality, health outcomes, and environmental justice in the South.
Thank you, Brendan. Kevin Barker and staff, if you can cut off the online public comments. Go ahead.
Good morning, Honorable Board. My name is Kevin Barker with South Coast. I'm here to voice concerns regarding the proposed amendments to Rules 1111 and 1121. Before I begin, I'd first like to thank South Coast staff for being generous with their time to meet with us earlier this week to discuss the rulemaking. We've submitted a request to South Coast AQMD Governing Board to consider a 90-day delay in setting the public hearing for PAR 1111 and 1121. We feel that the proposed December 6th public hearing does not give sufficient time for South Coast to address the concerns that we and other stakeholders have raised regarding assumptions and transparency of the cost-effective calculations, as well as conduct important public outreach. A 90-day delay would push the proposed public hearing to early March 2025. We want to stress the importance of public outreach with this rulemaking. As expressed in our comment letter, we feel that the residents and business owners in South Coast AQMD territory are unaware of the changes being proposed, despite the significant cost impacts this will have on them. Unlike many other South Coast AQMD emission regulations, the cost of compliance will be borne by homeowners and property owners. For example, using South Coast AQMD's cost data, you can find this on page 2-18 of the draft report. If I were an average single-family homeowner and I needed to replace my gas furnace, I would pay $10,000 for the purchase and installation of the gas furnace. If with this rule, I'd be forced to pay $18,500 to replace my gas furnace with a heat pump, and that does not include the $3,000 for the electric panel upgrades. Over the course of the 25-year useful life, I would save only $1,950. I believe there's a typo in the staff report on that. So the proposed rule would cost me in excess of $6,500 to $9,500 of increment.
Thank you. Next speaker, Kim Orbe, followed by Fernando Gaitan.
Good morning, Chair and board members, and happy Dia de los Muertos. My name is Kim Orbe, and I work with the Sierra Club. I'm here to show my support for Rules 11 and 1121. We're ready for these rules. These rules, as you've been hearing over and over, are critical to protecting people from this really criminal air pollution issue we have. At the last Stationary Source Committee meeting, you heard from some folks asking for delays and naming how people's rents will go up and how tenants are going to be faced with a burden. Some of these folks are the same people fighting rent control measures and others who have been repeatedly fined for using consumer money to weaken emission reductions and appliance efficiency standards. These are people, entities who do not have my interest, the interest of my community, the interest of public health or climate. For the past year, we have been working with staff and other stakeholders and making sure we pass strong rules and have a great, amazing, strong Go Zero program to support a transition for the folks most impacted. Now we're hearing at the last hour for more delays and more. It's kind of upsetting for me when so many of us have spent thousands of hours on these rules to reduce emissions in the region, and we've made time to show up, to give the feedback during this process. So I feel like you should have confidence in the outreach that has been done. I feel sorry for the staff who has also worked countless hours to put good rules before you. And I'm also curious why I haven't seen or met Kevin Barker in any of the other working group meetings. But on top of Go Zero, there's already many other programs and tools in place to support the transition. It's been great to hear about all the great coordination staff has been doing to align the rules of Go Zero to other things in place. And also looking forward to the technical assessment. As we're absorbing Dia de los Muertos, I can't help to think that any more delays will continue to claim lives and keep us from meeting our federal attainment standards. I hope that you don't overlook or take lightly this responsibility and opportunity.
Thank you. Fernando Gaitan, followed by Andrea.
Good morning, Fernando Gaitan with Earth Justice. So it's worth remembering that over 2 years ago, this board passed the 2022 AQMP, where it was recognized that zero emission solutions would need to be deployed across all sectors in order to get to attainment. And staff have spent substantial amount of time on these two rules. I'm here in support of Rule 1111 and 1121 and ask for no further delays. These rules should come before the board in December. Staff have organized over no fewer than 6 working group meetings and a public workshop where we and many of our partners here today actively participated in presenting ideas, and some of those were adopted into the draft rule. Simply put, this rule is ready to go and long overdue for full board consideration and adoption. This rule is estimated to reduce over 10 tons of NOx per day, as you heard before, and with the air district in extreme non-attainment and failing to attain yet again this year, we can't afford to leave these rules on the table. This is the most emission reductions from any rule package in over 3 decades, and so I urge the board to stay the course and pass these rules. Fortunately, the board had the foresight to authorize robust incentives to help support the transition to zero emissions, to help support disadvantaged communities, and also state and federal funding will be available to make this transition possible. Combined, these incentives will bring down the price of heat pump technology below the cost of polluting alternatives. And the technology to make this happen is here and becoming more abundant every day. It's interesting to hear today, BizFed here talking about tenant protections. We also care very much about what happens to tenants. We're hoping that BizFed will support efforts like this LA City Council recently supporting removing rent evictions as a loophole and to better protect residents in their homes. And the county, I know, is also proposing similar proposals to protect tenants. There are ways to protect tenants, and we're hoping this folks will support that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. Final speaker at the auditorium is Andrea.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Andrea with People's Collective for Environmental Justice. We're based out of San Bernardino. I'm not as angry as I was in my earlier comment because I think we're talking about something exciting here. And I think that's, what is great about the Air District is that we get so many solutions from here. And so, this rule is incredibly important to us in the IE. As you guys know, we deal with extreme heat every single summer, and it's getting worse every single year. A lot of folks don't have air conditioning. Heat pumps, in a way, when we actually put them in homes, can bring that to a lot of communities that haven't had it. We also just dealt with the line fire that went on for almost 3 weeks, and folks that are already dealing with air pollution issues inside their homes because of all the logistics around them had to now deal with the fires. And so these types of solutions that actually get some of these appliances that will go zero emissions and actually potentially be able to filtrate and cool homes is incredibly important to us. And so We can't have any more delays. We've talked about how important it is to use all the tools in our toolbox, and this is one of them. And I'm just saying, you really should be trusting your staff. Your staff doesn't bring anything half-baked. They've been working on it for a very long time, and I think are ready to move this. So I would love to see and support, setting the hearing so that we can have this done in December and move on something as important as this, so that we're doing something now in the winter that's going to benefit us for the summers. So thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Before I go to the remote public testimony in this item, just wanted to check with the board. I want to maintain a quorum. I know some people may have to leave around noonish, and we still got some public hearings. Does anybody oppose me reducing public comment to 1.5 minutes? Is that okay? Okay, we'll move to 1.5 minutes. We may have to go to 1 minute ultimately, Mayor. So from now on, if we can adjust the clock to 1.5 minutes, apologize, but we've got some important items I think all of us want to have heard and voted on today. Okay, so let's go ahead. Yu Shen, you've got 1.5 minutes. Go ahead. Yu Shen, go ahead, please. We'll go to the next speaker. We'll come back. Blake Perez. Blake, go ahead, please. Welcome.
Good afternoon, board. Thank you for the time. My name is Blake Perez. I'm with the Building Owners and Managers Association of Greater Los Angeles. We represent 135 million square feet of office space throughout LA County. Our members are deeply invested in improving building efficiencies, and many of them represent the front lines of innovative energy management and consumption. However, we are concerned with the two proposed rules and their significant impacts to our members who are still reeling from record low vacancy and occupancy challenges. Transitioning to zero NOx units, especially in existing buildings, often requires substantial modifications, such as electrical upgrades or structural adjustments. These are time consuming and costly, with some buildings requiring bespoke solutions. So we just ask that the board continue this item and not schedule the hearing for December, but allow for more time for data validation and to ensure that the cost effectiveness is more thoroughly studied, and that more stakeholders who may not be aware to check the public agenda or public notices and may not understand how these rules could impact them because they are lay people, be able to be heard and reached out to. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. Michael Rockmus. Michael, go ahead, please. Michael, you're on mute.
Hello, thanks. I'm speaking in favor of setting rules 1111 and 1121 for a board hearing in December. I want to thank staff for their work on these rules and their thorough rulemaking process. LA Climate Reality has been able to participate in a number of working groups over the past year on these rules. This is a very important package for reducing pollution in our region. Once fully implemented, this rule package will prevent 10 tons of NOx per day, but this package rules will take decades to be fully implemented. A delay in passing the rules is not necessary because AQMD has gone through all the proper rulemaking steps, and a delay is counterproductive because it delays the market signal that this rule sends for manufacturers, retailers, contractors, installers, and residents in this region. Heat pumps are way more efficient without the emissions. Incentives are available, and the Go Zero program is going to help supplement those. The main thing that makes it hard for people who want to install heat pumps right now is resistance from contractors who want to keep doing things the way they've been doing it. Swift passage of these rules will help address this challenge. It's just going to, it's not going to get easier until we start doing it, right? So we just got let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Next is Jed Holtzman, followed by Audrey Egger.
Hello, Chair Cacciati and Governing Board. My name is Jed Holtzman. I am on RMI's Carbon Free Buildings team. RMI is a nonpartisan, independent nonprofit focused on accelerating the clean energy transition and creating a prosperous future for all. As you've heard from other folks, I am here to support the calendaring of this vote for December. There has been a year-long process with a number of working group meetings, as well as the policy workshop and the stationary source committee hearing. As you all know, you are in wild non-attainment for every air quality standard that has been invented for ozone and PM 2.5. With the new PM 2.5 standard that EPA has proposed and is proceeding on, you will be even further out of attainment. So these measures are required by law. These are the largest emission reductions that the district will have achieved in over 3 decades from any package of rules. And when added to the associated rule 1146.2 that you passed in June, this will be the largest emission reductions in the district's history, to my knowledge. The health benefits, when you include 1146.2 and these rule packages, we're talking about over 300 premature deaths avoided each and every year, 24,000 lost work days each and every year. We want to talk about economic activity. This is what we need. $3.7 billion per year of health impacts averted. Please pass these.
Thank you, Jed. Audrey Egger, followed by Ann Pernick. Audrey, go ahead, please.
Hi, good morning. My name is Audrey Egger with the Inland Empire Economic Partnership. We represent the large employers and residents of both Riverside and San Bernardino counties in the Inland Empire. We would like to request a consideration to delay setting the public hearing on proposed amended rules 1111 and 1121 by 90 days. The proposed December 6th public hearing date for PARs 1111 and PAR 1121 for board consideration and approval does not allow adequate time for public outreach and resolution of issues within the cost effectiveness calculations, as PARs 1111 and 1121 require all California families and businesses to withstand the cost of rule implementation, but in particular, the Inland Empire residents and businesses in a financially disadvantageous position. We would like to ensure that the anticipated cost estimates provide a realistic expectation of what's to come for our region. IEP has already submitted written comments further outlining our concerns with PARs 1111 and 1121, and we are open to continued discussion. We thank the staff for their efforts on these matters and the board for consideration of this request. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. Ann Pernick, followed by Miran Tamajian.
Hello, Chair, board members, and staff, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Ann Pernick, and I work with Safe Cities at Standout Earth. I'm speaking today to support Rules 1111 and 1121 and to urge you to move forward without delay. I want to acknowledge the work of staff to create a robust and full working group process with enough time to explore all the relevant details. The impact of these rules is very significant, eliminating another 12% of the region's NOx from stationary sources. It's also critical for equity. The LA Air Basin suffers from the worst air quality in the nation, and communities of color are disproportionately impacted. Adopting 1111 and 1121 is urgent as the ozone standard has never been met. This was a commitment in the 2022 Air Quality Management Plan, and it is essential to get this over the finish line. Safe Cities works with local government leaders and advocates around the U.S. and Canada. This kind of leadership from the Air District will inspire critical action in other regions. The incentives available aid in this transition. Earlier this year, the board had the foresight to adopt the Go Zero proposal to allocate an initial $21 million with 75% of funding dedicated to overburdened communities. With additional programs such as Tech Clean California and the Federal Hero Program and other local or state incentives, there's a lot that can be stacked to help with this transition. With all this in mind, this is the moment to act and keep to the December vote. We look forward to celebrating a massive victory for clean air and your leadership then. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Miran Tamajian, please.
Good morning, Governing Board. Miran Tamajian with NAIOP SoCal, the leading nonprofit organization for commercial property owners, general contractors, architects, engineers, and other service professionals in the industrial, office, retail, and mixed-use multifamily real estate sectors across counties of Los Angeles and Orange. We oppose calendaring these rules for December and urge the board to defer consideration of the proposed rules until February 2025 or later in order to provide a sufficient amount of time to engage the commercial and industrial real estate sectors and discuss issues affecting commercial property owners and their tenants. NAIOP SoCal is concerned that the proposed rules do not take into account issues facing commercial industrial real estate property owners. The fact that commercial property owners are not considered an affected industry by district staff highlights this concern. The preliminary draft staff report for both rules states that the proposed regulations would affect manufacturers, distributors, retailers, resellers, and installers of natural gas-fired furnaces and water heaters. We believe that commercial industrial property owners and their tenants should also be considered an affected industry since they will be the ones to eventually shoulder the costs of complying with the regulations. In addition, we're concerned that the socioeconomic analysis to be conducted by district staff will be flawed. We believe that such a study will not represent an accurate picture of the costs to comply with the proposed regulations. Our concerns are predicated on the fact that commercial, industrial, real estate are not considered affected industries, and impacts to such industries may not have been included in the analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, Miran. Next is, it just says iPhone, followed by Victor Reyes. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Governing Board. My name is George Boutros with the Orange County Business Council. I apologize for my name being listed as iPhone and not my name, but I'm here on behalf of Orange County Business Council, and we kindly request that the South Coast Air Quality Management District postpone any action on proposed amended rules 1111 and 1121. We simply believe that there has not been quite enough time to collect a robust set of data and information regarding the overall impact that these rules would have on the business communities surrounding the district. If these PARs are adopted as written, it could have a significantly negative impact on the housing market, which is already a point of contention for Orange County's resident workforce. The PARs would also have a significant impact on the hospitality industry, which is one of Orange County's most vibrant and diverse economic sectors. Orange County Business Council will continue to support a comprehensive approach and inclusive dialogue to address the state's infrastructure needs, and we will continue to work with entities such as AQMD to ensure that the voice of Orange County's business community is engaged when discussing these approaches. And we have sent a letter as well to Chair Delgado dated October 16th that highlights our concerns in more detail. But we appreciate your time and consideration on this matter, and again would like to request a delay on this.
Thank you, George. Next is Victor Reyes, followed by Harvey Eder.
Hi, hello. My name is Victor Reyes, here on behalf of VICA, the Valley Industry and Commerce Association, urging the board to delay the public hearing for Part 1111 and Part 1121 by 90 days to ensure sufficient public outreach and stakeholder engagement. These amendments represent significant changes and shifting compliance costs from manufacturers to consumers who are largely unaware of the implications, and it's for that reason that consumers will now face higher costs when replacing appliances due to this required shift in new technology, which is understandable. Additionally, we believe that the current cost-effective analysis contains inconsistencies, which do need to be addressed to present an accurate impact assessment for the public. And so, given that the earliest compliance deadline is slated for January 2027, a brief delay would allow South Coast AQMD to conduct a more thorough public outreach and refine cost assumptions, as well as ensure all stakeholders are informed and prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Next is Harvey Eder, followed by Michael Lewis. Harvey, you've got 90 seconds. Go ahead, please.
Hello, I'm being heard, yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm Harvey Eder. I'm speaking for myself and PSPC. Outrage, it's a minute and a half. You guys should, you can't give us more time or don't be on the board. Okay, one thing, Pevin's paradox, about 100 years ago, last 30 years, increase of efficiency 36%, increase of use 63%. We lose, okay? Heat pumps. Heat pumps are replacing solar. It's outrageous. It's been developed here 150 years ago, all right? Under CEQA and NEPA, this has to be dealt with. It destroys the ozone layer. Dr. K says we put olefins in it, and instead of thousands, it's high hundreds, GWP. Okay, CEQA and NEPA. The subpart of socioeconomics is political economics. Who owns and controls? There's 40% in 617 areas just to lower emissions, not enough. We have to own it and control it, vertically and horizontally owned industries and whatnot. Okay, there's a lot of other stuff, and we're being purged and not able to speak on it, like some we just mentioned, and this is outrageous. We need time to hear from people. Okay, the records, all of the proceedings of the ISIS and ISIS, International and National Solar Energy Society, formed in 1954. Everything's in the record here, and the Energy Agency that's been doing the solar thermal has been purged. The Israeli.
Thank you, Harvey. Last two speakers, Michael Lewis and Yu Shen. Michael, go ahead, please.
Thank you. This is Mike Lewis. I represent the Construction Industry Air Quality Coalition, and I submitted a letter outlining some of the concerns that we've got about the proposed rule. And I wanted to just highlight that this isn't a manufacturing rule. This is a consumer rule, and you're talking about millions of homeowners who are going to have to replace a water heater and are going to have sticker shock when they find out what it's going to take to do that. If they've got an older home and they have to upgrade their panel, you had a gentleman who installs these heat pumps testify at the committee meeting, say that he charges $5,900. I can call my plumber today and have a water heater installed this afternoon for $1,000. This is going to be. I think what you need to do is ask your staff to prepare for you a couple of examples of what happens to a 60-year-old home and a 30-year-old home when they have to add a heat pump for water heating, a heat pump for space heating, and a heat pump for pool heating, and what that means to the electrical load that they're going to need at their house. And then you go ask Edison, how do you provide this much power to that house? And I think you're going to find out they can't. And there's no ability to do that on the kind of scale that you're talking about and the time frame that you're talking about. I think you need to take a much closer look at this, because you're going to have a lot of very angry, millions, frankly, of very angry consumers when they find out what they're going to have to do when their water heater goes out. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Final speaker on this item is Yu Shen. You go ahead, please.
Am I being heard?
Yes.
You're a member of the board. My name is Yushin. I am calling in support of the adoption of Rule 1111 and 1121 at the December board meeting. I am a resident of West LA, which arguably is not one of the areas when it comes to better quality when people who from this region talk about the air quality here. But I live here. I suffer really bad year-round allergy on days that has worse air quality. My allergy attacks are even more severe. So when I heard these rule packages could bring, once fully implemented, could potentially reduce up to 10 tons of NOx, I am really excited for these to pass, and without any further delay. Another thing that I've been hearing after just listening on all the cost estimates from people were saying this is going to cost a lot for the residents. I am also really excited for the Go Zero program that's helping the route to be successful, with 75% setting aside for the low income communities.
Thank you, Yu. And that concludes our public comment on this item. And I'll turn it over to Mayor McCallum. I'd like to speak. If anybody else, please raise your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge all of the good work that staff has done on this, and I do appreciate all the diligent effort that you've put into it. However, I still have some concerns. I know you're working hard on it, but these rules impact all of almost 17 million people that live in the district, and I'm concerned that we have not done enough to make the public aware of these rules and that the potential fiscal impact of them. And I'm not convinced that we have adequately sought public input on the rule, and I'm referring to the general public, not industry reps and not environmental groups. I know we have had public workshops, but that is not enough. We have not done outreach through mainstream media or COGS or cities, for example, to fully explain these rules and seek input from the residents who wouldn't ordinarily be tracking our actions, and they are the ones directly impacted. I'm especially concerned about the lower income and environmental justice communities with older homes and inadequate infrastructure, where many live paycheck to paycheck or rely solely on fixed income through Social Security. I'm deeply concerned about the impact these rules will have on the availability of housing. We have a critical housing shortage now, and the possible renter displacement and increases in rental housing prices will continue to contribute to that shortage. I understand Edison says they will be able to adequately handle the load, but I have not heard if we got the same assurance from LADWP and the many smaller electric providers in the district. Further, there are great concerns about the costs and the economic impact analysis and its adequacy. There are also concerns about the adequacy of the draft supplemental environmental assessment. We have also heard a significant concerns from our mountain constituents concerning operational costs in cold climates and new construction costs in many cases to install units in the higher elevation communities. Our staff needs time to address these legitimate concerns, as well as the recommendations included in the BizFed letters of October 30 and 31, as well as the Construction Industry Air Quality Coalition letter dated November 1. They are asking to defer implementation dates to 2029 to give the market time to develop innovative technologies to reduce costs and displacement impacts and to align with the district's AQMD and the state's planned decarbonization of the electric grid. Therefore, I move that we have a 90-day set hearing to give staff and the stakeholders adequate time to iron out these issues and during that time period, bring progress back to the stationary source committees.
So in 90 days, we'll have the hearing. Is that what you're saying?
90-day set hearing be set for February. That's my motion.
90 days would be March, Larry. Oh, it's February, okay.
February.
So I said December, January, February? Okay.
That's my motion. Thank you.
I've got
Second.
We got some other comments by Supervisor Mitchell and Board Member Padilla Campos before we vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I, with all due respect, have to speak against the motion currently on the floor. As we've heard from members of the public, these rules have been in our AQMP for 2 years with numerous working groups over the course of a year. As a city member of Stationary Source, we've heard it twice. At the last Stationary Source, some concerns were raised, but it was agreed upon by the committee that we would stick to the December date. So I have to say I was surprised by the direction, and as a result, it was put on consent calendar. So I must say I was surprised to see it removed and hear some of the issues raised. I guess my concern is, as I sat here and thought about it, the 2+ years now I've served, I've seen the request for delays used a variety of ways. They often come late, they often come in strong, and I sat here and went through my notes to try to calculate how many. I think there's been a couple dozen delays of important rules or processes since I've joined the board. And as I looked at the letters that came in the last 48 hours or so, plus listening to public comment, if the concern is cost over benefit, what is a 90-day delay really going to garner us? Staff has calculated the benefits of passing the rules, or at least sticking to the December date. I'm not sure what a 90-day delay is going to do if cost is the core issue. If the issue is, quote, lack of outreach, then thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the first time I heard your level of specificity in terms of who needs to be targeted. Because when we use very vague language like, more thorough outreach, I don't know what that means, nor can I measure it. So I don't know if 90 days gets us there. So if there's going to be a motion to delay. I would ask that we get very specific in terms of who the outreach is going to be targeting and to what end, so we can be measured and quantified to justify a further delay of a rule that has been a part of our plan for 2 years. Further, my suggestion would be, if outreach is our legitimate concern, that we also double down on our outreach regarding the incentive and rebate programs that the consumers will benefit from. But again, this has been heard twice in Stationary Source Committee. I also went back through my notes because I have recalled us trying to move a variety of actions where we have heard from staff that staff don't have the bandwidth to do some of the work. And so from my perspective, this 90-day delay is further impacting staff plan and staff work. And again, to what end? We delay it 90 days. If we come back in 90 days, will we have any additional proof that communities have been touched or outreach to that we don't know as of now? I think my final comment is really a question to staff. If the concern is lack of true public awareness, am I wrong in thinking that getting the word out to the public about rule changes is actually more effective after the rule is passed? That's not really rhetorical.
Sorry, Madam Supervisor, I just wasn't sure if you had
Yeah, no,
more.
it wasn't rhetorical.
Yeah, no, your
It was
point
not.
is well taken, and the public outreach, there are a number of factors at play in terms of how the state and how we look at public outreach and where this is really targeted toward. And much of what we're doing is targeted toward the manufacturers. And when you think about what the CEC does with regards to setting standards for new homes being electric and the like, there is a certain amount of outreach, but to the extent I'm not quite sure what I'm hearing, because in one sense, somebody could say, well, I want you to do a multimedia campaign, television, print, radio, out to the entire public. And that's not something that is typically done. It's not something that we do. It's not something that the state does or things like that. It is, as you had described earlier, something that is done when something is passed, but not even to the extent that I just described. I do believe that there are a number of things that have been raised that you point out have come at the last minute. And if I may, if I could have Mr. Kraus respond to some of those points for your consideration. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus.
Thank you for this opportunity. So just to kind of highlight some of these things that have been under development to kind of bring everyone up to speed. So we do agree there was a lot of high upfront capital cost in this rule. We've always talked about that. We've had this discussion in our staff reports, but as well as we're hearing from the commenters, and we've had this in our socioeconomic document. We also have added some provisions that have been raised by groups like BizFed and like the high altitude areas, ones that kind of will assist in the transition from their current situation operating natural gas equipment into the electric arena, or at least the zero emission arena. These would include things like allowances for multifamily properties to have a natural gas unit that temporarily can utilize that throughout that building as they make those transitions. Those transitions could involve construction, panel upgrades, et cetera. We have been talking with them about that, and that's the sort of seem on board. As well as on the high altitude areas, a bridge, or a period of time we're going to allow up in that high altitude area. So first, we're delaying the implementation timeframe up there, and we're also going to allow the transition for a dual fuel as a temporary bridge for a couple of years there to make sure that transition, and to ensure that they can have that immediate, if they run into an emergency situation, an immediate heating, so we don't have like a heating crisis up in the high altitude areas. Also want to again highlight for folks that our technology check-in has been moved up to December 2026. This was another request from the industry. And then again, as well as coupling this with our Go Zero incentivized program, which again, for those concerned about disadvantaged communities, we are targeting 75% of that funding to those areas. So, and again, that's doubling the rebate program for those areas.
So Mr. Chair, if I could just close my comments by saying, again, if there are industries who oppose these rules across the board, then say that. A 90-day delay may not close the gap for them completely. I appreciate hearing from staff in terms of what we've been able to do to address some of those concerns. But if outreach and more thorough outreach is going to be the claim, then we need to be very clear, as it was stated by staff, within the confines of what we do, how we define and quantify that outreach. If it's going to be the will of the board to delay 90 days, I'm going to ask that that outreach be specified and clear, so when we come back, we all know how we spend our time and who actually learned something as a result of the unfortunate delay of this rule. Thank you very much.
Wayne, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that for the Go Zero, the appliance rebate program, we do have 20 million for that, and then we have an additional 1 million that is targeted toward outreach. And as we noted before, that 20 million is the first tranche, if you will. We do have additional funds. We want to see how that program goes. But I just wanted to remind the board that the additional million was for outreach on that effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Board Member Padilla-Campos.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Mitchell, for highlighting a lot of the issues that I've seen. I'm also going to respectfully not support your motion, Mr. McKellen. I feel like since I've joined this board, we always hear from community members coming and reminding us that our priorities need to be the communities that we're supposed to be serving, because we continue to delay motions or rules that would impact people's lives. We just heard many people speak on the Ports ISR, and now we're here listening to another one that yet again to be delayed. I'm not comfortable with that. We've heard it many times in committee, and I'm surprised they got pulled. I was ready to move this forward. I think using the lack of engagement it doesn't validate the extension. I think that we can pass it and still work to ensure that the people that need to know about this are hearing about it. There's different ways. There's ways of getting the word out in affordable manner if that the cost is the concern. But I won't be supporting an extension. I really don't think that that's going to resolve any of the concerns that we've heard today. And I don't know if it's appropriate to offer a second or an alternate motion to move it forward as staff has recommended today. Thank you.
Did you want to comment to her question about adding an alternate motion or substitute motion?
We could do that. It'd basically be essentially amending the motion. But give me 1 second.
Yes.
And let me see if she has a second for that first.
So for clarification, was that a substitute motion to accept staff's recommendation from, apologies for going out of order. I'm just
No,
trying
it's
to
fine.
clarify.
Veronica, is that a substitute motion to accept staff's recommendation, initial recommendation?
It's an alternate motion, I guess. Yes.
Substitute, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think we would just say substitute, and
Okay.
generally that one would be voted on first, I believe. And then the second one.
Okay, then let's
I'm
continue.
sorry, then the first one.
Then the first one. Then we'll continue our discussion. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you. Well, I would agree with Supervisor Mitchell regarding the outreach. Should be very specific. It should be very clear. And I'll just start, colleagues, for a moment, as maybe just a personal story, maybe shared by many of our constituents who, out of the blue, would wake up and their water is cold and it can't be heated and it's out. And now they have a new bill that they didn't expect. Or as my family had, a furnace go out and we were caught flat-footed with an estimate of several $1,000s without any idea that that was the case. So the implications when we hear of costs for families in our region, many of which live paycheck to paycheck, that would have to go from a bill that's around $6,000 to $20,000 is an absolute crisis for families. And I don't think, frankly, in the constituents even know about that. Even though respectfully they've had opportunities, public hearings and whatnot, I don't think residents in any of the cities really understand that and have had a chance to get that information and weigh in. So I think that's from the standpoint of the implications of the costs to families, and getting their input would be valuable. I also just kind of setting the, if you would indulge me for a moment, we understand the crisis that we have regarding affordability in California. And Cal Matters, a recent report highlighted pandemic era inflation has fallen from its peak 2 years ago, but the cost of many goods and services continue to rise and are still higher than before the onset of COVID. And also rents are among the highest in the country in California, home to 4 of the 10 most expensive large cities for tenants. And also amongst those California cities that have the highest rents in the country, we have one of which in Orange County. Furthermore, more than half of California renters are rent burdened, which means that more than 30% of their income goes towards rent. And nearly a third of Californians are severely rent burdened, which means that rent eats more than half of their incomes. The numbers are worse for families of color, too, as a California Housing Partnership analysis found that in 2019, Black rental households were about twice as likely as white renter households to be severely cost burdened. I mentioned the renter issue because of the unintentional consequence. I'd like to get more information on from those who own properties in our apartments, many of which are mom and pops operations. There's information that we were presented about legal state laws for rental stabilization and tenant protection challenges that allow landlords to evict tenants to renovate a unit building for substantial remodels. Any modification that requires a permit or abatement of hazardous materials that cannot be safely accomplished within 30 days. Costs of obtaining permits may not deter landlords, and costs can be recovered by eviction and relisting with increased rent. From a city perspective, as a member of a city council, like many of my colleagues here, it would appear that we would be in a position of enforcement with respect to inspections. And again, if we're going to be on the front lines of that additional task, which arguably we would see a tremendous amount of going around potentially of this rule. So how do we really enforce it? I just think all of which leads to outreach needed for seniors. I'd like to know about what seniors have to say about this. Those that are on fixed incomes, are they aware of this? I'd like to know about if HOAs, what do they have to say about this and their awareness? I'd like to see the COGS, the Council of Governments, engage with AQMD on outreach, where cities can, and their public information officers can, over the next 90 days, outreach to their constituents. I think all of that would give us an abundance of additional information, would be a really good investment of our time to add to the hard work and effort that's gone into this effort thus far. So I would respectfully request and support the initial motion, but we'll stop for now. Thank you for your consideration, colleagues.
Thank you, Councilmember. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you, Ms. Chair and colleagues, and great conversation. It's a tough one. You know, policy is not easy. It's always, there's always a lot of gray, there's always dilemmas, there's always competing interests. It's not necessarily one side or the other. And obviously, those of us that are policymakers have decided to step into these shoes to make these tough decisions, and it's not always popular. It is what it is. A lot of great arguments from both all my colleagues, and let me just say that I definitely agree with the outreach efforts. If we need to be more targeted, by all means, let's figure that out. What does that look like? What does that mean? I'm also very interested on the cost benefit analysis, though. For example, how many homes are we talking about? Potentially, throughout Southern California Air Basin, through our district, might need potentially a new water heater, or not only single-family homes, but apartment complexes. I mean, what does that really look like now? So Carlos spoke from a personal viewpoint. Guess what, folks? This week, what's today, Friday? On Monday, I had to figure out what I was going to do about my water heater because I had cold water at my pad, which I didn't mind, but my wife didn't like it. And not only that, we have family from Colima, Mexico coming, and I'm sure they wouldn't appreciate it either. And they're here now, and our home in Coachella, California. And guess what I had to do? I had to figure out very quickly what I was going to do to make sure that our water was going to be at least lukewarm, or at least warm enough for them to take a shower. I called a few professionals, if you will, that are in this line of work. I was quoted up to $12,000 for a professional job with like the elite of the elites, I guess, water heaters. And the next one was like maybe like $8K. And then the next one was like maybe $6K. And we were talking about a $3K one. We ended up saying, well, look, we just need something. I don't know how long it's going to last. Let's get something for $3,000. We can go to Home Depot, or maybe they can advise us where to go and get something for $3,000. Get the cheapest one possible so we can make sure that we get hot water. Well, guess what? I went ahead and I called my buddy who is a contractor, and he said, you know what, man, it's real simple. Just go to Home Depot, get a Rahim. You're probably going to need a 50-gallon. And I have a friend who actually works as a plumber, works for a plumbing company, but he is much, much, much cheaper. So that's what I did. And guess what? I still spent about $1,100, $200. Not everyone can do that, folks. And by no means can I have spent $12,000, nor $9,000, nor $8,000, nor $4,000. So this is about the community. I live in a community. Just because I'm a policymaker doesn't mean I'm not in the community. Just because I happen to be here as an elected doesn't mean that I'm not from the community. I'm proud to be a member of the community. I still live in a barrio where I grew up. But there are competing interests, and sometimes we don't know. We don't know what the impacts are going to be when we pass a policy, one way or the other. But I will say this. Being a supervisor and seeing the different plans that are not coming from developers, because we cannot even pencil out affordable housing, where in the city of Coachella, who would have known that in an agricultural community, it would cost $550,000 to move into an affordable house in Coachella. My own kids can't afford that, and they both went to universities. So look, folks, there needs to be balance, and 90 days, I'm willing to do the 90 days. Everyone's got great arguments. I appreciate my colleagues. They're all very smart individuals. They all care. We all care, but I'm gonna stick to the motion by Mr. Larry McClellan.
Thank you, Supervisor Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I actually now reluctantly have to follow that impassioned plea by Supervisor Perez, and I'm not sure I can top it. Let me try to just talk specifically a little bit to the rule. I think Supervisor Mitchell raised a couple of very good points. One is the concern about delay, and there is no question that we see efforts at delay all the time. That's frankly what a lot of CEQA actions are about on one side of the equation, and the effort by industry here to delay this is also no doubt what's in play here. And in both of those examples, we ask ourselves the question, as a result of that delay, do we get something better? In a CEQA action, are we going to get a more environmentally appropriate project for that delay? In this case, are we going to get a better rule as a result of that delay? Delay itself is not always a bad thing or a reason to reject, in this case, Mr. McCallum's motion. The other very good question that was asked is with respect to public outreach, maybe it's more appropriate coming later. And I would answer, it depends on the purpose of the public outreach. If the goal of that outreach is to let people know what the rule is and what they have to do and how they have to do it, then after is fine. If the goal of the public outreach is perhaps a better rule, to change the rules so that it works better for the most people, then clearly the delay and the outreach has to come earlier, which is what I think Mr. McCallum is asking for in this case. For the reasons identified by Supervisor Perez, there are a lot of unknowns, potentially extraordinarily expensive unknowns that will fall on people, perhaps those least able to pay for that those additional costs. Let's at least hear them out. I will say, I hope not to be often saying, you know, as the new kid on the block, but at least as the new kid sitting up here on the dais today, as somebody who has spent an awful lot of time in public policy, I try to stay up on the news, try to stay up with what's going on. The details of this rule, I first heard about in October. And, you know, it's advertised out there as, you know, proposed amended Rule 111 or 1111, reduction of NOx emissions, Rule 1121, reduction of NOx emissions. And that doesn't galvanize the public. Outreach that says changes to your water heater and your air conditioning system and your whatever it happens to be that could cost you 10 grand, 12 grand, that'll get people's attention. And that will help us, hopefully, come up with a better rule. I don't know whether 90 days is enough to do all that outreach and to get all that input, to determine the cost for the public, the cost for various different community groups. But I will assure you, I didn't hear as a supervisor from anybody in my community about this rule, that this was coming, about this direct threat to folks' pocketbooks. And that's what needs to be fleshed out. And that's what Mr. McCallum's motion does, and why I would support that and not the alternate motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Mitchell.
Thank you. A question to staff. I appreciate you delineating the outreach budget. Given the kind of outreach you've heard from board members, which, based on what you said, is kind of the typical outreach we do, their expectation, it sounds to me, exceeds the capacity of AQMD. But given the budget you've talked about, could you tell us what kind of outreach you think you could get done in 90 days?
So within 90 days, we could certainly reach out to the COGS and to other local government. But within 90 days, to do the type of campaign that I think I'm hearing being discussed, there's no way you could do that. You couldn't even go out and advertise for contracts for firms to do the bidding, to actually do the work, if you were going to go that way. And the cost would be something that would be far in excess of what we have as budgeted for any kind of outreach when you're targeting the general public. But on this particular point, Supervisor, if I may, the concerns that were expressed about cost, I want to maybe remind the board of the implementation date, 27 and 28, for the water heaters and space heaters. And then there's the technology review that Mr. Kraus talked about at the end of 26, which is something that the board always considers with regards to how do we know that the technology is ready or isn't ready, or that the cost isn't there. So the technology review at the end of 26 is very important. And the other aspect is we do have current technology. We have 120 volt technology that can be used on the water heaters that you can go down to Home Depot. And I don't know if that was one of the options that was presented to you.
Most expensive one.
The Home Depot 120 volt?
Well, out of all the ones that I saw, electrical was more expensive than actual gas.
That's true.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at the cost of natural gas versus the cost of electricity, we certainly understand that the cost of electricity is higher. And then I know that there was discussion on the overall efficiency, but given the overall efficiency of the water heat pumps over the lifetime, you will see cost savings. But be that as it may, to the supervisor's point, what can we effectively accomplish in the next 90 days? We can do the additional outreach to the COGS. We can do, I'll have to check with my staff on other various aspects in terms of what we could do. But that's what comes to my mind right now, Supervisor.
I appreciate you mentioning the off-ramps. I'd written that in my notes and then bypassed it because we spent a good period of time in committee talking about the off-ramps, which is typical when we are making significant moves in this way with these regulations to make sure that technology does keep up. Can you talk to me about the budget for the incentive and the rebate programs? If you can remind me what those budget numbers are. Basically, given the impassioned comments by my colleagues who are concerned about people who are rent burdened and people who are going to need the help. So let's talk about what kind of help we are in a position to actually provide, since that appears to be our concern.
So as I noted earlier, the initial effort for the Go Zero program is at 20 million. And then we have 1 million for the outreach. We do have additional funds available to us that were part of mitigation fees paid by the space heaters. And I want to say that fund is 100 million. It's about 100 million. So we do have room to go up. We wanted to see the effectiveness of this first round, come back to you all and describe what it is and see if there's any recommendations to go further. Obviously, if the program is very effective, we're able to get the new technology out, the costs are coming down, that's something that we would like to come back and try to continue that incentivization, as well as the catalytic effect of deploying so much technology all at once.
Final point, ultimate implementation date of the rule is?
27 and 28.
27, 28, okay. And I would just make sure that staff did hear my second to member Padilla-Campos's substitute motion. I wanted to make sure that was noted, okay. And finally, to my colleagues, y'all better do a better job of home maintenance. Y'all shouldn't wait till the hot water heaters go out and you ain't got cold water. I'm the single woman homeowner here, and I sound like I'm doing better than some of my male colleagues. It's called home maintenance. Plan ahead, budget.
I love
No,
you.
it didn't,
I
'cause
love
I got my current right stuff. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Mayor Salache.
Mr. Vice Chair, just quickly, I think a lot of my colleagues made a lot of the already comments, but I just want to amplify community's voice about, their I don't want to say excitement per se, but their need of making sure that this happens. So I understand the chair, Mr. McCallan's motion, and we're going to delay it by a couple of months. I understand that, but obviously community needs to come first, and when we make these decisions as well. So with that, I just want to express those comments myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I see Board Member Padilla Campos again.
Really quick, just, Wayne, thank you for telling us about all the funding that is available to support people that may, that definitely will need support with this. And that's a really nice budget. So that's where we need to be doing the engagement, telling them about the incentives that are available, not us delaying this further. We need to make this happen and make sure that people are aware of what we have available to support this motion, because it needs to happen. Thank you.
I see Mayor Locke Dawson.
Hi, thank you. I just want to Supervisor Mitchell and Member Padilla Campos, I want to thank you for bringing up a lot of things that I was thinking about. I do respect that the committee heard this, how many times? Twice already? Twice? And your recommendation was to move this forward, correct? Yeah. But I also respect a lot of what Supervisor Perez is saying too, because his people are my people out in the IE. So while I hear the calls of our community that want this done, I also feel that a 90-day period isn't going to, I don't know if it's going to do much for outreach, but I don't think it's going to do much for also harming air, and it's also over the holidays. I mean, I don't know that it's going to work, but I'll be supporting the original motion for that reason, but looking forward to making a vote on this when it comes back to us for good. Thank you.
Board members, any more comments? Well, just a quick question for staff. One of the recent emails from Mr. Whittingham with the supplemental environmental assessment, they indicated this may be a legal question, that we didn't comply with CEQA. Bay, do we have any concerns about that?
No.
Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm listening to Wayne that the implementation dates are looking at 27, 28. Although Larry brought up, and I think some letters I've written maybe delayed that a year. Since the implementation dates are so far away, I respect the motion. I really support. I'm tired of the delays, but I'll support it because I don't really think it hurts the measure. We have the money we're going to put out there, but the fact that it's so far in advance and we've got this technology review soon, I'm probably going to support the original measure. With that, any more comments? Okay, we'll take a vote. Faye? The vote, oh, sorry, my fault. The vote is on the substitute motion, right, Bay?
That's correct.
By Supervisor?
By
Padilla
Board Member Padilla Campos.
Seconded by
Supervisor Mitchell.
Mitchell, okay. We'll vote on that item. Faye, is that everyone? Motion fails. 2 yes, 9 opposed, 2 absent. Bay, we go to the original motion?
That's correct.
Original motion, Larry, was? Just, so we have your original motion?
Original motion is to have a set hearing for 90 days and that it come back to the Stationary Search Committee during that time with updates on the issues. That's the original motion.
Is that clear?
No, just we want to be clear that the hearing will be in February.
Right, February.
The hearing to do what? To set it? The hearing
No, the set hearing of 90 days will make sure that the hearing is in February.
Hearing is in February. Great. Okay, everybody's clear?
Yep.
Let's vote. Motion passes 9 yes, 2 no, 2 abstain. Wayne, we're at 11:51 right now. I know some people may have to leave it a little after 12.
If I may, if I could just ask who has to leave? 1,
I have to leave
Two.
at 12:30.
okay, 2,
Kurt, 3?
3. We'll still have a quorum. If we can proceed as directed, then I would request that we will try to do a very brief AB 617 update and then go to the public hearing items.
Great.
Thank you.
That's gonna take a while.
Dr. Sessaher Johnson, welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much. Good morning, Vice Chair and members of the Governing Board. My name is Dr. Sessaher Johnson. I am the Deputy Executive Officer for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion with Community Air Programs. On behalf of my very talented, dedicated Diversity, Equity, Inclusion with Community Air Programs team, I'm honored to provide the board today with our annual progress report on AB 617. We're excited to share the numerous efforts that staff across AQMD have done in the past year. There are initiatives, events, projects that have involved and engaged community, industry, stakeholders. The information that's being provided here today has been shared, discussed, debated across communities and small groups, large groups, and an all CSE group meeting that we will share. Next slide. A significant change was the transition of the community air programs to the DEI division in January 2023. That DEI lens is really shaping a lot of the work that we have done. So you'll see here we have 6 of the 19 communities across the state are within our region. Each community has their own origin story. Their approach to doing the work in those communities is what governs our team. So one of the efforts that we've implemented to increase our awareness in a kind of post-COVID world is to do more in person, more in community with stakeholders. We're doing what we call is really restorative, talking to diversity of industry, community-based organizations. We have co-lead models, we have community facilitators, we have small working teams, subcommittees. Like I said before, we meet in large group situations. We've had retreats, we have listening sessions, we have phone calls, we go in person. We are engaging community in a multitude of ways. Next slide, please. You'll see here, we are generally on a 5-year framework. It's 5 years from the time it was adopted by CARB, designed to implement the SERP. What you'll see in the upcoming slides is a presentation of data and updates on over 200 SERP objectives that are intended to increase education, reduce exposure, and emissions. Next slide, please. One really fabulous highlight, a critical highlight in the past year is an all CSE event that we had here at AQMD, actually in this space here. We had over 170 attendees, 90 which were community members. These are folks who also included CARB, representative and other governmental agencies. The purpose of this all CSC was really to get them in space together. These are groups who oftentimes are in combat with each other, not always agreeing. They have asked to be in space with each other so that they can do more restorative work. And so we really wanted to have that happen. And so we wanted to share with them the information about the annual progress report, get that feedback. We also wanted to provide a networking opportunity. This is where they would come together to build trust, that they would talk about what initiatives are working in their groups. They had been siloed and they had different origin stories, different start times, but this was a time to bring everyone together to say what's working in your community may work in my community, and bringing folks together. And so we did that on August 24th. Again, we hadn't done that before. The feedback on it was quite remarkable. They're expecting us to do it again. We're looking forward to do it again. But it was really, I think, the best and what was needed for our program. Next slide. Another initiative that we did was a purposeful effort. You know, part of our mission here at South Coast AQMD is to operate efficiently, effectively, and transparently. And so another initiative was the creation of our SERP implementation dashboard. This is our way to be able to share the data things that are not hidden to make it accessible to the community. It is the creation of a community-facing tool meant to educate and empower. It is updated on a quarterly basis as opposed to just once a year. In its draft form, it was shared with every single CSC member. We actually created a video that we emailed to folks so that they could see the presentation of the information and know what we're going to be talking about. We are guided by really census data. So currently it's in both English and Spanish. We're in constant communication with the communities as to how we can improve it and if we need to do it in other languages. But it is something that we're very proud of and will continue to improve in the upcoming year. Next slide, please. So I'm excited to announce that we have a new director of DEI with Community Air Programs, and he's going to introduce himself and to continue with the remaining portions of the presentation. So Walter, you want to come on up?
Thanks, Tessa. Good afternoon, Vice Chairs, members of the board. My name is Walter. As Tessa introduced, I'm the new director of DEI with Community Air Programs. And for the next slides, I wanted to share some more SERP actions and highlights as it pertains to each of the AB 617 communities. Starting with the 2018 designated communities here, staff has made progress with the SERP objectives that are either completed, nearing completion, ongoing, or has been initiated. For the community of East LA, Boyle Heights, and West Commerce, we're happy to report that superseding the information on this slide, that to date, we have 850 households that have received over 1,100 residential air filtration units, and with over 1,000 additional applications in the queue. And staff is working to implement a $61 million zero-emission passenger locomotive project located within this community, as well as other supporting infrastructure projects. In the community of San Bernardino Muscogee, I wanted to focus, on one highlight where staff was able to outreach to 263 truck owners through CARB's automated license plate reader studies, which helped identify trucks that frequented the SBM boundaries. Next slide, please. Moving along to the community of Wilmington, Carson, and West Long Beach. Staff is addressing truck emissions by participating and working with multiple agencies as part of the Caltrans Advisory Committee on options to help reduce emissions from the Vincent Thomas Bridge deck replacement project. Also relating to the oil drilling and production, staff has partnered with LA County on the development on infographics and outreach materials to highlight and reduce exposure risk from oil drilling and production sites, which will be shared at applicable outreach events. Road development efforts in 2024 included Rule 1148.1, which further reduced VOC emissions from oil and gas production wells. And moving on to SERP actions related to refineries on this community, other road development highlights in 2024 approved by the board further control VOC emissions from storage tanks and increased monitoring. Next slide, please. Staff has made progress in road development efforts highlighted in this slide. These efforts benefit several AB 617 communities, and as I mentioned in the previous slide, these rules address and control emissions from oil and gas production wells and refinery operations. Next slide, please. Moving right along to the 2019 designated communities of East Coachella Valley and Southeast LA, staff has been working diligently on SERP actions with the majority of the SERP commitments in either completed, near completion, ongoing, or initiated statuses. In the Eastern Coachella Valley, staff continues to address fugitive road dust with approximately $4.5 million available for this effort. On the residential air filtration side, as of this month, over 300 households have received over 400 air filtration units. In Southeast LA, staff released the RFP for Green Space Program and is working to establish and partner with other organizations and municipalities on its implementation. Other highlights to note in Southeast LA include the installation of 37 no idling truck signs in locations identified by the community steering committee members. Next slide, please. Lastly, we move to our latest and newest designated community, South Los Angeles, where a majority of its SERP actions have been initiated, is ongoing, nearing completion, or has been completed. One of the SERP Objectives for this community includes focusing on auto body shop emissions. And for this report, staff is working to amend rules 1151 and 1171 and has held numerous working groups and workshops to phase out specified solvents that are potential carcinogens. I'm happy to report that last week at the CSE members in South LA finalized their budget for their community identified projects, where over $11 million have been allocated towards green space projects, school residential air filtration projects, along with VOC reductions from dry cleaning and auto body shop operations. Next slide, please. So moving on to some of the highlights that span across multiple AB 617 communities, on the incentives approach, all 6 communities have prioritized air filtration in private schools and daycares as a result of funds from the supplemental environmental project, where over $1 million have been awarded towards 184 private schools and daycares. The Clean Technology Truck Program was developed by staff in response to the SERP truck objectives in East LA, San Bernardino, Southeast LA, and Wilmington communities, and is moving forward with applications for zero-emission truck rental services. Staff is anticipating the program to open in Q1 in early part of 2025. For the communities of East LA and San Bernardino, the automated license plate reader pilot study has helped staff identify heavy-duty trucks that frequented these community boundaries and has provided outreach materials such as incentive funding information. And lastly, with respect to all the AB 617 communities except for Eastern Coachella Valley, staff has developed Rule 1148.1 as well as the Rail ISR. Both were passed by the board in August. Next slide, please. In terms of the projected emission reductions for the AB 617 communities, what you see on this slide is the total mobile source dollars awarded in each of the AB 617 communities. Over $260 million has been awarded towards mobile source projects under the Carl Moyer as well as the Prop 1B programs. We also see the projected NOx and diesel particulate matter emission reductions at the 5th and 10th year of the SERP implementation. These projected emission reductions reflect implementation of each community SERP and not only include the mobile source projects that are already deployed or in the process of being deployed in the communities, but also CARB statewide control measures, which include current adopted CARB regulations. Next slide, please. So some of the key community inputs for this annual report include enhanced targeted outreach and engagement to increase community involvement and collaboration with local agencies. Many of the suggestions are already being implemented by staff. And the takeaway from this slide is for staff to further focus on the quality of the outreach, its execution, as well as the frequency of these efforts. Next slide, please. So some of the big picture future incentive efforts for our AB 617 communities include truck routes, green space, school air filtration, with additional efforts to reduce emissions. We're excited to begin collaborations with the CSCs in the development of an information video to identify neighborhood streets and corridors of concern for truck traffic and to incorporate air monitoring data and truck traffic information. Staff continues to work on green space objectives in the communities, and they're making efforts to partner with local contractors to provide funding for tree planting projects. School air filtration continues to be a cross-community objective, and staff is working to outreach and partner with school districts to apply by the December 20th deadline. Lastly, staff will continue to focus on emission reductions from commercial marine port sources. Staff will also be focusing on the rural development efforts for metal heating and laser plasma arc metal cutting operations. And with that, I will move this back to Sessa to highlight the next steps.
Next slide, please. So where we are now is we're presenting this package to the governing board. The next step is, if agreed upon and approved, it will be submitted to CARB staff in mid-November, and then CARB staff will present their APR package to their governing board sometime in spring, summer 2025. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sessa Hurd and Walter. Wayne?
That concludes our presentation. As Dr. Johnson said, we do need to forward this on to CARB. So I noticed that
approval.
there was one public comment online, and I don't see anybody in our location with their
Location?
hand raised.
What we'll do is we'll limit public comment to 1 minute because we're in a jam to get all this done. And Harvey, you got 1 minute on this item? Go ahead, please.
Being heard? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Come on. Okay, look, everything has to be stopped. These are all subsidiary to the Solar New Deal as part of the 16 plan as requested by Dr. Burke, by us, okay? It was never evaluated. We were running out of
Thank you,
court
Mr.
trying to.
Director. This does not relate to this item. Thank you. We can move on.
Thank you, Harvey.
Move the item.
Motion by Mayor McCallum. Is there a second? Second by Mayor Lock Dawson. Any discussion? I see supervisors, your hand is still up or previous? Okay. Okay. And Board Member Padilla Campos also? Okay. We're going to work on trying to clear that. Okay, roll call vote, please. Or no, sorry, vote by the machine. Nine yes. Ten yes, motion passes. Now we move to the public hearing, item 21, determining proposed rule 1151 motor vehicle and mobile equipment non-assembly line coding operations does not require new environmental document and amend rule 1151. Heather?
Good afternoon, actually, Vice Chair. Oh, I'm on mute. Good afternoon, board members. Heather Farr, I'm here to present on proposed amended rule 1151. Next slide, please. So this is the rule that controls VOC emissions for automotive coatings. So think of auto body shops, collision centers. You probably passed dozens of them on your way into this meeting today. This proposed amendment is needed to implement a control measure in the 2022 AQMP, which wanted us to phase out of 2 exempt solvents that have toxic endpoints, as well as achieve further VOC emission reductions. This also does satisfy a 617 SERP objective for the South LA community. We have had a year-long public process with 4 working group meetings and over 40 stakeholder meetings. Next slide, please. So the South Coast does have a good history of lowering VOC emissions from solvents and coatings. Next click. Over the decades, some of the way we have done that was to transition to these exempt solvents. So these are solvents that have low photochemical reactivity, and they can be used as really pretty easy drop-in solvents to lower VOCs of coatings. However, some of them had some potential toxic impacts. So in 2017, our stationary source committee directed us to really prioritize lowering toxicity, even if that means increasing VOC levels. And the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, or OHIHA, did determine that 2 compounds that manufacturers rely on, tertiary butyl acetate, or TBAC, and parachlorobenzotrifluoride, or PCBTF, are potent carcinogens. Next slide, please. And so the reason we're concerned, this map here shows all of the auto body shops within the South Coast jurisdiction. There's over 3,000 auto body shops. Next click. This red area shows the South LA community, and you can see how some of those are really clustered. They're really right within neighborhoods. And as I mentioned, the PCBTF and TBAC are used kind of ubiquitously in these coatings to meet the VOC limits. Next slide, please. So what are we going to do to address this? So if this rule gets passed today, we're going to raise VOC limits. That's right, I said raise VOC limits up to the national standards. So that will allow coatings that are manufactured to be sold in like Arizona and Nevada to be sold in our jurisdiction. Those coatings don't contain these toxic compounds. And then to address supply chain concerns, we're going to allow sell-through and use-through that will help the coatings that are already in the supply chain and what's on the shops at our local auto body shops. Next click. Then we're going to allow 3 to 5 years for those coatings to be reformulated back down to existing levels. Again, same sell-through and use-through to try to help address any local impacts. Next slide, please. 3 to 5 years does seem like a long time for reformulation, but there's a lot of R&D. We do love our cars in Southern California. There's over 30,000 colors that need to be matched. There's also certifications, training, labeling, and just retooling the manufacturing process. Next slide, please. So our current emissions are around 2.5 tons 2.5 tons per day. Those will temporarily increase, but the good news is on full implementation will actually be lower than the existing VOC emissions from these coatings. Next slide. We do have a key issue we would like to discuss. Members of the UV, EB, LED industry have complained about the record keeping and the reporting requirements. We did actually find coatings being used at our local shops, at least one UV, EB coating. However, the VOC limit for that is not lower than a conventional product that's being used for the same purposes. And record keeping is really important. It's important for the shops to be able to proof up that they're complying with our rules and with our permit limits. The EPA has also cited record keeping as a reason not to certify or not to approve of one of our rules. We did add in new reporting requirements, and reporting requirements are very helpful. We really do need to know all the coatings that are being sold, both high VOC and low VOC. We worked with the manufacturers to make it as minimally impactful as we can. It's once every 5 years. There's just 3 reporting periods, 2030, 2035, and 2040, and that will give the district really critical information on inventories and really to know what coatings are out there. Next slide, please. So finally, just to talk about the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, these impacts of this rule were previously assessed in our AQMP. When it comes to socioeconomic or the costs, so currently costs are actually quite high. Those solvents, they're kind of specialty solvents, so they do come with a cost premium. So we expect for the 3 to 5 years where the VOCs are going to increase, those costs should come down. So the local shops should have more affordable coating costs. We do understand that with the reformulations, the manufacturers will likely pass on those costs to the end user, so we do expect the cost to come back up. But with the difference in the raw material, there is some uncertainty on how much those costs would be. So we did a bit of a range, which ranged from having some pretty good cost savings to potentially having some cost increases. Next slide, please. So staff recommendations is to determine that the proposed amendment is a later activity within that final environmental impact report from the 2022 AQMP and amend the rule. With that, I can take any questions.
Board members, any questions? Mayor Solace?
Move the item.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Second, but before we do, there's any questions from board members? Seeing none, there's some public comment on this item, and I'll limit it to 1 minute. I'm sorry, we just want to want to be able to vote on this item and the next item. So first up here is there Douglas Raymond in the room?
He actually had to leave to catch a flight.
Okay, and then we have Rita Loof. Welcome, Rita. Rita, wait 1 second. Microphone, so we can hear you. Start off in a minute. Okay, go ahead, Rita.
Rita Loof, Director of Environmental Affairs for RADTech International. We represent over 800 members involved in the UV, EB, LED industry. And our materials are not formulated with VOCs or toxics. They're all electric and therefore prevent emissions of greenhouse gases. Despite the many environmental benefits our products offer, the proposal before you is needlessly heavy-handed with our industry. The board received a letter from a RADTech member company in Redondo Beach, which will be negatively impacted by this rule. So I urge regulatory relief for our industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rita. Final speaker in the room is Gene Lopez. Gene, welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name is Gene Lopez. I work for Seidner's Collision Center. We have 13 locations in the AQMD district. And so I heard Barry Wallerstein's name earlier. And the last time I was here, he was still executive director, and it was before I was gray. And we voted on this new rule, 1151. This is somewhere around 2000, 2001. So the toxins that we were selected to use to reduce these VOCs, we've been using for about 24 or 25 years. It's too soon to make a decision. You on the board cannot make a decision yet. The UV products that are being proposed won't be ready in 3 or 4 years. We need to take.
Thank you, Gene. We'll go online. You've got 1 minute. Harvey Etter first, and then followed by Cara Bomarito. Go ahead, Harvey. Harvey, you're on mute.
Hello? Hello,
You're
being heard? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, this is Harvey Etter talking for Public Solar Power Co. Rita, nice stuff, but if it's electric, we got to go back to the sources. We got to do quality analysis for energy, net energy, etc. We don't know what you got, solar, etc. Okay, PFAS. Okay, we brought this up to mates. The estimates are that it's going to take $16 trillion a year. I think that's just for the United States for 10 years to get out PFAS. That's part of pollution from chemicals and plastics, part of fossil fuels, all right? They're doing that when there are other things going down. This has got to be looked at the whole. That's what we've been bringing up, and we've been purged. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. And this is part of the socioeconomics, part of the controlled decision-making ownership, not the 40% of systems, but ownership control, 80, 100%, etc. That's what's good. And incorporating by reference Piketty, French economist on equity in the 2014 and equity and ideology, 2/3 of the country see no increase in income.
Thank you, Harvey. Your final speaker is Cara Bomarito. Cara, go ahead, please.
Good morning. I sit on a committee for sustainability, and we work with the UV and EV industry. Our main focus is to understand that things need to be produced more sustainably, and EV technology and UV technology achieves that. Rule 1151 was to eliminate these toxins, but it is actually making it harder to progress the use of non-toxic technology. It is going to add a lot of regulatory problems, and the rule has 4 pages of mandates. There's too many data points that manufacturers are going to have to give to their I'm running out of time. Okay, anyway, UV, EV, and LED technology does not have any of these problems. There's 0, in most cases, emissions. So having these huge regulatory and data burdens is really unnecessary. But thank you, and hope you consider.
Thank you, Cara. That closes public comment on this item. There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a vote.
Do you want to have Wayne respond?
Oh, hold it. I'm sorry. Councilmember Rodriguez has a comment.
Just staff again, can you clarify why is it that UV, EV, and LED cannot just report under the Rule 109, and why the additional requirements would apply to them on reporting? It just seems to me that perhaps they could be, why can't they be exempted from that reporting?
So 109 is the record keeping, and the UVEB, the rule does reference 109. It's incorporated by reference. So all of the record keeping is just 109. We did add additional reporting, like I said, once every 5 years, just 3 reporting cycles. And for us, when we're working on rules, it's really important for us to know if there are those low VOC UVEB coatings out there. If we don't get reported to us, we don't know they're there. So we really do look at those reports when we try to decide, if we find a bunch of UVEB coatings at low VOC, we could use that to push the limits lower to encourage their use. But if it's not reported to us, we just don't know.
Also, any other responses to the other commenters? The fellow who hasn't been here since Barry Wallerstein graced these halls. Any response to those comments?
Well, PCBTF is the one that's used predominantly in these coatings, and it's been exempted since 2014. So they have been out there for about 10 years. But our approach, they really did, PCBTF came out to be a very potent carcinogen. And these shops they're right in neighborhoods. I stood right on the outside of an auto body shop, and we did a site visit, and I was right in somebody's, really their driveway, and I smelled the PCBTF come over the wall. So we do think it's really important to phase out these compounds. But what we're doing, we're allowing those nationally formulated coatings to come in. We're doing something we've never done in my couple decades of working on VOC rules. We're raising limits to get these toxics out as quickly as possible. So that's going to go to conventional coatings. And then we're going to give the manufacturers time to reformulate to bring those VOCs back down.
And if I could add, if you notice, the speaker had said that he thought the reformulation between a 2 to 3 year period was not long enough. We did hear that from already. If you look at the rule, we have extended to a 3 to 5 year period because of that comment.
Board members, any more comments or questions? Seeing none, let's vote. Cast your vote. Motion passes 10-0, 3 absent. Move to the final item on our agenda, item number 22.
Mr. Chair, I move the item.
Mr. Chair, we waive presentation.
Presentations waived. Move- Second by Supervisor Hagman. Any comment? Any public comment? I see one hand raised online. You've got a minute. 2, Julia May, go ahead. You want to keep your comments very short. You don't want to lose the quorum here. We'll have to put this off longer.
Thank you. Julia May, CBE, supporting Rule 1173 adoption. Refineries have hundreds of thousands of seals and connectors which leak VOCs and benzene. This industry enjoys high profits for a very long time. These are easily available controls, should be a normal part of doing business. Note, the Energy Commission proceeding on gasoline price gouging recently found simple measures could have saved California $2 billion in gasoline costs, and instead the industry enjoyed record profits that were unrelated to environmental regulation and that were far higher than any other state. They were simply charging more beyond their own cost. But this industry has fought readily available controls that you put in place. We need you to require them to do more. We support the rule. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Oscar Espino, pardon. Oscar, go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Oscar Espino Padron, and I'm an attorney with Earth Justice. I want to thank staff for their work on this important rule update. These are critical VOC emission reductions from oil refineries, and the sheer amount of reductions that would be secured here is really indicative of not only the fact that these are long overdue reductions, but also that these are extremely polluting facilities in our region during routine operations, not to mention the significant pollution that is released from non-routine events from refineries are prone to, such as explosions, fires, and flaring incidents. We urge staff to move promptly to reopen other refinery rules that remain on the forecast, including Rule 1176. These rules are critical to improve air quality and to protect public health and safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. Final speaker in this item is Harvey Eder. I'm closing public comment now. Harvey, you're the final speaker. You've got 1 minute. Go ahead. Harvey, you're on mute.
Hello, I'm being heard? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, my name's Harvey Eder. I'm speaking for myself, PSBC, etc. I'm kind of blanking. I'm sorry. I'll agree with Julian May, EBT, and the guy from Earth Justice. We've got to make this into policy and to quantify. So health effects, etc. Very important. It hasn't been done. We put all kinds of stuff in the records. The Lancet report saying there's like 1 to 1.5 million premature deaths a year from air pollution from 18.
Thank you, Mr. Eder. You can move beyond the subject to this item.
Thank you, Harvey. That wraps it up. Item number 22. And we've got a motion and a second. Ready for a vote? Cast your vote, please. Motion passes 10, 3 absent. Bay, do we have any closed session?
No, we don't today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned. No.